What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
This project started to coalesce, I started to realize that travel agents and travel agencies first are going away. And I think that those words and that term and the beauty of that is so nice that I don't ever want it to leave. I don't want it to be replaced with Expedia. Uh, so I felt like kind of a personal responsibility as an artist to take care of that gray space of like what is going to happen to this word, what is going to happen to these terms, and find something that really feels like it fits it. So the travel agency operates kind of on this principle that many people who engage with the contemporary art community are tourists. And it's very difficult for people traveling to a new place for the first time to feel comfortable in that space. And the thing that the travel agency does, or travel agents do, is they use their expertise to translate local culture and norms to a tourist, to a visitor. And the process of giving that to them and making it clear to them is a way of like welcoming them into these beautiful new experiences.
But it's funny that you bring up Kiki's now, Kiki Salem's piece, which I feel like is totally so much different than Elle's piece.
Right.
This one feels it is meant to be empowering and implicating the viewer and the reader in a very direct way. So I feel like, and maybe more people took pictures of themselves in front of Kiki's piece because of that empowering aspect of it.
Yeah.
Also, I guess we can like talk a little bit too about like the digital audience. Like I think Kiki's particularly, this one was like reshared so many times, and was just like, it was really cool to see how far it spread that way. They didn't have to be there, to take a photo. They could just share the image that we took. But for them, it was like sharing her PSA.
There are a couple of things. Yeah, I wanted to bring this up because I thought it was kind of the most contrast of like, this is one that I saw a lot more interaction with on social, or a lot more people kind of like being a part of this image. I feel like this speaks, like this is one that you step into and you can own this message for yourself and engage in this message for yourself. And there are a couple of other things that change with this one. The banner style of the text is very unique and divergent for the scope of what we see PSA typically do. And and then I'm not actually sure of the timing of this, but I think that looking at this one and then also looking at Jesse Donovan's billboard, and thinking about them as like similar materials as well. So there's like this banner material, and then this like I think most often billboards are kind of like this tarp-like banner, vinyl tarp material, and we have a detail of it here. Okay.
That's hand embroidery by Kiki.
Oh, wow.
That was a nice touch that she added to it as well.
Yeah.
Kiki works a lot with fiber arts, so
yeah, maybe that's why we were kind of drawn to working on, or we talked about doing banners with her, and she was really on board. She also like does tapestries in her work and a lot of fiber, so I think it really makes sense.
A big part of the banner decision for Kiki's work was because we wanted to accommodate the Arabic text, and so the way our infrastructure set up, it would have been difficult to cut out the Arabic text and place that. It wouldn't have fit on the wires so well, so that's why we opted for a banner approach.
That there are a lot of portrait work, but then there's also a lot of graphic design with some 3D elements on there. I'm looking, do you see the one that I'm showing right now?
Yeah, I can see that. That's titled either Ritual One or Ritual Two, but they're kind of based off me looking into like historically, like coming from like African roots, how we like use rituals like throughout time as Black people, whether it's from Africa, the Caribbean, like American Black people. I feel like regardless of where you're located, like the idea of like ritual and like spirituality has always like played a huge part in the culture as a whole. So this is me kind of like not direct, this is not like a direct like, oh, this comes from this spiritual practice, but it's definitely like a shout out to spirit boards and divination and like the different ways that we would use like fortune telling and different things like that. So this is kind of like a representation of that practice, like having shapes and like in different tribes in Africa, like they'll paint shapes on their houses and on their huts to represent certain ideas, whether it's like goddesses or representing protection or whatever. So this is like my take on symbols that to me represent protection, but also historically, like the triangle, the pyramids, or the idea of the eye and like mirrors, like reflecting back to you. So it's a lot of that, like a lot of personal interpretation about like divination and spirituality, but also like historical as well.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Club Stars Line. I'm your co-host, Jake Leach, and to my left on your screen is my mom, Denise Hewlett. Hi, Mom. How are you doing?
Oh, hi, son. How are you? We ready to do this?
I'm doing quite peachy. Yeah, we're going to do this today. Well, so a lot has happened. I'm already out of breath. My God, we're just so hype in this. Mom, you're kind of somewhere else. The people can't really see, but we've got you're actually in space. It looks like.
Yeah.
So you're looking back onto the planet. Did you take like a Tesla rocket? Are you at the International Space Station? Where are you exactly right now?
That is a view of the Earthrise. And no, I am not in the space station. I am in my transit van in the high desert in Joshua Tree, California. That's where I'm from. Shall we go ahead and show people? Should we
Yes,
do the
show
big
people where you're at. Let's take a
so
look
let me
here.
go ahead and open the van door.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Kind of bright, y'all. Can you see it?
Yeah, Mom,
Kevin,
here,
see?
bring your computer over so people can kind of see.
Am I doing the right?
Yeah,
part two?
that's. Why don't you go out and stand in it real quick, Mom, just to prove that it's not a green screen.
Hello, y'all.
Yeah, exit the van entirely. Go. This ain't no joke, y'all. Yeah, there she is, out in the world. We love to see this. Yes, bye, Denise. My mom said, or my mom, little Miss Gabby says, we got the chat blowing up over here.
Oh my goodness.
Ghost riding
All
the
right.
whip over here. So.
Okay, so we will be checking on the sunset periodically over the next hour and a half, but right now it is blazing, so I need to close it. So here we go.
Okay, yes. Get that door closed here, nice and cool.
Yeah. Yes. Although, speaking of blazing, I also have my, can you see this?
Yeah, what do we have here?
My UFO incense thing going. So just to complete the whole thing, you know.
It's a full sensory overload, a full sensory experience you have going on here.
Isn't that interesting, Jake? Isn't that gonna? Yes, isn't that interesting?
Is that something that might come up later on?
That might, exactly.
Okay.
So here we go. Now, this is gonna be loud. Okay,
All right, here we go, friends.
Yeah, okay, ready?
Everyone cover your ears. Okay. Ooh, goodness.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, we'll knock the rust off. Welcome to Art Brunch. Good morning. We're excited to have you all here. If this is your first time on Twitch, thanks for joining us over here. The reason we use Twitch is it provides a great space for our community to interact with our show and be a part of a community. So yes, if it is your first time on Twitch, one of the things that you can do to help us that's free is just hit that follow button there, and and you'll enjoy that. Software for Girls says, "Wow, that commercial reel was fire." Yeah, that was the new vibe. So we have multiple shows here, and wanting to create that intro that gives everyone kind of a sense of what we do. Art Brunch is just one of the shows on the travel agency. But I do want to tell you a little bit, if you're unfamiliar with the travel agency, like what we do, who we are. The travel agency is a digitally native platform where artists make TV on the internet. Our programming presents contemporary artists and their processes in an approachable manner. Art Brunch, the show that you're watching today, the show that we're really excited about, highlights a member of the contemporary art world in casual conversation every week live on Twitch and YouTube. You can think of Art Brunch as a podcast, only with video and in real time. You don't even need to be watching the video the entire time that you're with the show today, but towards the middle part of the show, we'll be showing slides from our guests' work. Art Brunch also really strives to give people unfamiliar with art spaces an opportunity to learn and feel involved with the art world. In 2021, the travel agency received grant funding through the Futures Fund, supported by the Andy Warhol Foundations for the Arts. So this is the beginning of that. We've got some chatters here. Skate Mom, hello. Denise, welcome to the stream. Denise says Art Brunch is lit. And Implancarte, nice to see you there with the fire emotes. Welcome to the show. Yes, we have a co-host. We have a great friend and confidant, my boy Jake Leach. Welcome, Jake.
Hi, Rick. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good. I'm excited. It feels like forever since we've done Art Brunch. We've done like 20 shows since the last official Art Brunch. So it feels good to be getting back into it, and with a really special guest today.
I completely agree. You said we're knocking the rust off. That we always have that little theme. Normally it's vocally, and I don't know. I don't feel like we're knocking rust off this morning. I mean, maybe on a broader metaphorical scale. We're kind of getting back into it, but
yeah, there wasn't any time for rust really. Like before, in the gap between Matt Sage and PSA, there was like a 2-week gap where we didn't do like any shows.
Right.
But I think I've done 5 shows over the past week.
Yes. Yeah. Rick, tell the people a little bit about this week, because let's see. We did our 5-hour comeback, reintroduce the travel agency last week.
Right. So that
actually exceptionally fun and really easy. I thought it was going to be really difficult, or just a lot, I was like, let's go. Let's do another one. Let's wind that bad boy back.
So that was a week ago. A week ago
yes.
Sunday, we did a 5-hour stream where we gave each show on the channel an hour. So we started kind of with the travel agency proper and Art Brunch for the first hour. And then we went into talking with Kalaya Mallory from the Luminary to talk about our Futures Fund. And then from there, we went to Tiffany Sutton, who hosts the show Two Black Artists in Conversation. Following that, we did Club Stars Align, where I drank too much Fireball in true Club Stars Align fashion. And then after that, we did kind of our fun, not Luminary funded show called Artists Play Video Games, where we just like mess around and build weird things in Minecraft with our artist friends.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're noting that it's not a funded show, because if you were to ever catch that show on a bi-weekly Tuesday, you'll be like, are they getting paid to do this? And the answer is no. The choice has been made for that not to be paid. That is strictly for the love. But everyone should still watch it. But, just getting some logistics out of the way here.
That was Sunday. And then Monday, I did a live IRL walkthrough of park-like and grand center. I got a new gimbal that I really like, and was able to take the live stream out into the world and explore physical spaces, which is something that I'm going to be doing more as a part of like my solo show, which was called Rick in the Void, which is really funny because now it's going to be a lot of me like in real places.
Rick in a very specific place is actually what the show should be called now.
And then Thursday we had Club Stars Align Taurus,
Correct.
which went off swimmingly. Shout out to
did.
our lovely graphic designer and dance lord, Little Miss Gabby.
Yes, who we were celebrating her Turinian queen self, and much like we were saying just before the show, my mom, my co-host Denise Hewlett, she was out in the world and streaming live from the Joshua Tree Desert.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, we out here is the theme this week, I think.
Oh, Tuesday we did have an artist play video games where we made a
Yes, we did.
Minecraft version of Joe, which
Yes.
we need
Oh my
to
gosh,
make a
did we
clip
skip
of.
that? This
Yeah,
is
we
truly-
did skip it.
we did multiple Richard Serra pieces, all of the ones in St. Louis,
Uh-huh.
and then also the one in New York that is now gone, the Tilted Arc, the famous Tilted Arc piece.
Yeah, so you made Twain, and then we all worked together on Joe.
Yep.
And then just yesterday, Tiffany Sutton had Saria Conaway, musician and artist teacher at Coca, on.
Mm.
So then now it's Sunday again, and we have a really special guest. So that's
Yes,
been our week
you
of
sleep,
streaming.
Rick. And Rick slept 0%. We'll see.
I slept a lot. I got my second shot, so I slept literally all day Friday.
Okay.
But we can get into that.
It was needed. There you go.
We have a really special guest today. I keep saying that, but I'm really looking forward to introducing him. His name's Vaughn Davis Jr. Friend, wonderful artist, making big moves across the country, probably across the world soon enough. But I want to read his bio here, introduce him, and bring him on the stream. So, Vaughn Davis Jr. lives and works in St. Louis, Missouri. Vaughn received his BFA with Departmental Honors in Sculpture from Webster University in St. Louis. His work has been exhibited at Dragon Crab Turtle, Monaco Gallery, The Luminary in St. Louis, Missouri, Gazebo Gallery in Kent, Ohio, among others. He's had solo exhibitions at Philip Sline Gallery and the Center of Creative Arts, both located in St. Louis, also known as Coca. Upcoming, he has a solo exhibition. Oh, this isn't upcoming. Right now, he has a solo exhibition at Romer Young Gallery in San Francisco, California, wink, wink, and is included in a group show at Abattoir Gallery in Cleveland, Ohio. So, Vaughn, welcome to the stream. How's it going?
Hey, what's up, guys? Hey,
How's it going,
good.
Vaughn?
Good to be
to see
here.
you.
What's up?
Welcome in.
Likewise. Welcome. Thanks.
So, you got a nice backdrop there.
Yeah, it's the work. I'm here at Schisms at the show in San Francisco. So I'm live streaming from here right now.
Live streaming
That's
from
pretty cool.
Romer Young Gallery in San Francisco, California.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And
I-
Rick, are you also streaming from there too, with a Vaughn behind you?
I'm streaming from my private Vaughn Davis Jr. collection, actually.
I see.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
This is the climate controlled warehouse where I keep my my Vaughn's work.
Absolutely. Which I have to say again, like it's for the real OGs who've watched the show, they've known that background for some time, and it's been missing. And to bring it back now is just feels like we're really starting from the beginning, but all new at the same time. Feels really good.
Yeah, one of the best things that anyone's ever told me about this background is very early in the Art Brunch legacy. I was streaming with this view a lot. This Vaughn's work is on one of the most prominent walls in my house. And after one of the streams, I was talking to a mutual friend of ours, Nizveta, and Nizveta was like, "Oh, I thought I'd check out this Art Brunch thing," and then I actually turned it on, and I saw that there was a Vaughn Davis Jr. behind you, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I need to watch this."
That's
so,
how you
Wow.
knew.
So that,
Yeah,
that
you
was
saw that
sweet.
plaster wall. That plaster wall in your house is like crazy, you know?
It's
That's,
hard as concrete.
seriously.
We're getting the install secrets here. The backstory. I didn't know that. I didn't know that plaster wall was a a real threat to the work. I guess you got to really fight
They
it to
are
get it in there.
definitely, yeah. The plaster's just like the next level material. It's kind of old school, but it's vintage at the same time. So
Yeah. So you came over and installed it, which was really helpful because I would not have been able to do that, and I think that's a service that you offer to your
yeah,
patrons when it's appropriate, and I'm really glad that you did because it took us a little bit to sort out the best way to do it. And this piece is actually reversible as well. So on one occasion, Vaughn came over to facilitate the flipping of the work, which was really important.
Fantastic.
yeah.
Implant Cartier in the chat, I think that's Miguel, says hi, Vaughn. Don't mean to
There we go.
dox. Don't mean to dox Miguel, but having your last name in your Twitch kind of already did it to
You
you.
kind of do it to yourself, but that's okay. All right. It's all family here. We're hanging out.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. Kind of the first place that we typically start with the show. What is this offering or this experience for us to kind of like transcend the space and time that we're in here? So we usually like to share a drink together. Vaughn picked the drink for today, and what we're going to be doing are making beer mosas. So for those of you who have been watching a long time, Canned Crucible is like no longer what we're doing. We didn't like the competitive aspect of it. Now what we're doing is this segment that I fondly refer to as mindful tasting. So just an opportunity for friends across time and space to kind of feel like we're in the same space. So you recommended this beer mosa. What is your history with beer mosa, Vaughn?
I did. It was something that I kind of stumbled upon it, I guess, much like many other things. I had a beer that I really enjoyed, and I also enjoyed orange juice. I mean, I had tried this mixing things with orange juice before, like mixing. So I kind of stumbled upon that. So yeah, it's a beer mosa. I really enjoyed them with the Blue Moon specifically. I think that's a really nice. I think that's a really nice one. It's like pretty light. It's really easy to drink. It's kind of like it's really chill. It's a really chill drink. I made myself one for sure. So.
Nice. What do you think the ideal ratio of beer to mosa is?
I guess I was thinking like a mimosa, like the original, but just flip it. Instead of it's like an even. I think it's like 2/3 beer, 1/3 orange juice.
Okay.
Mm.
I got my
sounds
classy stem here.
Ooh. The
A wine
stemmy,
glass.
okay.
Yeah. You got them stemmy.
Yeah, they
Well-
got that stemmy. We're just,
so
just
I
gonna yeet this
love
in
beer
there.
mosas. I will say I tend to have they just wreck my stomach for some reason. I guess it's like the acid and stuff. That's not to say I didn't make one, which I have one here. Mine's kind of small though, so
Yeah.
judge me not. But this drink is a lot bigger in person. I promise. I actually added a little bit of water just to maybe cut through that acidity a little bit.
Okay.
Oh, that's
So
smart.
as long as we're talking ratios, everything I saw was 2/3 beer, 1/3 orange juice. And I just cut it with a little bit of water. So
Okay.
Rick, that looks beautiful.
Yeah.
You really did it.
Yeah, I can pour beers into wine glasses. And then we just
He's
hit
no
it with
joke.
a little topper.
Okay.
Huh?
Right on top. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you
Cheers.
go. Cheers, mates. There you
I've
go.
never had one of these.
Deeply
Oh.
pleasant.
Okay.
It's mad chill.
Yeah, and it's a cool 8:24 out there in San Francisco, yeah?
Yeah.
Mm.
Joining us quite a bit earlier
Yeah.
than most of our guests do.
The beer mosa hits a little different at 8:24.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just gonna sip it.
Yeah, don't feel like you're in a rush.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm feeling this. This is maybe the best one I've ever had, and maybe it's because we made it. We all made this together, so this is feeling right.
Do you have any good stories around a beer mosa, Vaughn?
Any good stories around the beer mosas?
Anything that stands out?
Yeah, I mean, they're just pretty consistent to me, I think. I mean, I think it's the,
Consistency.
yeah, and just the simplicity around them. I guess that's the story for me. I guess that's most of the. I guess those are most of the stories. Like just being able to, uh, not whittle down, but keep it consistent. It's like it's just easy. It's like, yeah,
Oh, for
yeah, it's
sure.
just simple.
When you guys get blue moons on draft, do you ask for an orange wedge? Because I feel like it's
Exactly.
extra of me sometimes, but like truly, it's like night and day. It really changes the game if you get that orange wedge with the blue moon on draft.
It's definitely part of it. Yeah, I think that's kind of what inspired it as well. It's like, oh, that's a why not put more of the juice in there?
And you gotta take the orange slice and kind of rub the rim, and really get mixologist with it, and then you got it's
Yeah, that was
unbelievable.
part of my avoiding. I was like orange juice, a beer, and those are
Oh
the
yeah,
two
no,
things.
it's a vibe for sure.
Yeah, it's
Rick,
much.
what are you? And actually, honestly, like Blue Moon, I feel like is always the best choice of like beer that is ubiquitous. So it's
Hmm.
like I'm at like Buffalo Wild Wings, and I'm like, okay, or I'm like at a
Mm.
golf course that has like grilled cheese and a burger, and then they have 6 beers. What are you gonna do? Well, if you got Blue Moon, you're in the clear. That's how I feel. I
Okay.
feel like if you're at a sports bar and they got Blue Moon on draft, you're chilling. You're
Yeah.
good.
It's like the old world craft beer. It was
Yes,
like one of the
Mm.
first beers that I would consider like a craft beer, right?
totally.
It differentiated itself. It's not like a Mick Ultra.
Unless you're Lance Armstrong, I feel like that's like the biker's beer. I worked
A
at
Mick Ultra?
yeah, no, seriously, like there was these bikers that would come to this restaurant I worked at in college, and they would like do like a crazy bike ride, really long, and they're in full gear, super aerodynamic, and they would show up, and then there'd be like 6 of them, and all of them would get like 3 Mick Ultras each, and we
Wow.
would just get wiped out. And it's like, okay, this is the biker beer, and not in the biker typical sense. This is the sleek $10,000 Cannondale kind of biker. So
Yeah, those guys are just like ridden like 5, 10, 15 miles.
Mm.
Just like we deserve a few.
yeah, no, they got to earn back those cows a little bit, even though it's a very low cal still too. But
I mean, that's game fuel.
mm-hmm.
Because they had
Yeah,
another.
see on Twitch, it's gamer fuel on Twitch is Taco Bell and Baja Blast, but
Yeah. When I was in Vienna, when I studied there in school, people would drink a lot of like non-alcoholic beer, and like that was the thing. It's like we're
Oh.
just gonna have like a non-alcoholic beer. So I guess
Just
that
a
can be part of
taste.
the beer mosa too. If you don't want to drink that early,
Ooh,
do
Oh.
like the non-alcoholic beer mosa, and that's the way
totally,
you can switch it up.
definitely. Yeah, to our sober friends or non-alcoholic friends, that's a great way to do it. That sounds
Yeah.
delicious.
Yeah. It seems like one that could stay pretty like the flavors would stay quite consistent as well with the drink. You doesn't feel like you're sacrificing too much by making it a non-alcoholic bev as well. So
Absolutely.
Bet you wish you would have thought about that about 12 hours ago.
12 hours.
Oh man, that 8:30's hitting.
I still got all that Bush NA. I just can't get myself to drink it. We had a guest on who got us to get Bush NA. And
Nice.
I just haven't found a way to get myself to drink a Bush that is not alcoholic. It's like kind of it's not great for me.
Mm.
We got a question in the
Ooh.
chat here. Vaughn, have you had the 21st Amendment beer yet? It's from San Francisco.
Oh, I saw it on the menu last night.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, yesterday. No, I didn't try it. Yeah, I saw it at this place. We're at this place called the Ramp. We went there for lunch yesterday. It was kind of out on like the bay, but it was partially where the old the ships would come in and dock.
Mm.
So we did lunch out there, and I saw the 21st Amendment on the menu. No, I didn't try one though. Guess I gotta put that on the list or something.
Ooh,
Yeah,
yum.
That's awesome. Well, I do like
it
this.
looks good.
I think that mimosas, like, this isn't as sweet as a mimosa.
Totally not. Which is so chill.
I am gonna add a dash more.
Yeah.
But yeah, like sweet champagne always gives me kind of this nagging headache, and I don't sense any headache in the beer mosa. It's a lot better than I thought it would be. I've never had one. I've always seen them on the menu, and I've always just thought that like, oh, like that's what you drink when you have a hangover, and you only have $3. Like at Crow's Nest, I feel like that's like a very like Crow's Nest drink. of like, I have $3, I have a hangover, I need hair of the dog. Like, just give me a beer mosa. But now I'm seeing that there's like quality, forethought in this drink
Mhm.
that I never knew.
Yeah. Well, Rick, I'm gonna grab this in the chat here. So I'm curious, Vaughn, do you do like fruit beers at all? Like, because we kind of assembled one here for us. Like, do you do like when you go into the beer vibe, do you do like sours? Do you do fruit flavored ones? Do you kind of get into that space
Oh yeah,
with draft beer?
those all sound nice. Yeah, those
Okay.
sound pretty chill.
Okay.
I
So
can.
apparently, that same brand has one called Hell or High Watermelon, which sounds delicious, honestly.
Oh, that sounds
I've had
fresh.
watermelon flavored beers, and those are really good.
Sounds kind of
So
wild.
with the trail.
Yeah.
So shout out to Denise, my mom, who lived in the Bay Area for 3 years. So she
Oh, cool.
she could have some suggestions for you while you're out there and
Oh, no
there in the
way.
Bay for sure.
Cool. It's really cool out here. The weather's been like pretty spectacular. It's been really interesting.
Yeah.
It's always like a gust of wind, so that was cool. Like layering. I was like, oh, I'm like much more north in California. So it's
Totally. There's a certain scent I feel like to San Franciscan air. Like the ocean water, like smell of the air it's different. It's like I don't know, it's like spicier somehow than like LA. Like there's just something about it's like or muskier maybe. It's like a fragrance more so than
Yeah, I had a runny nose like a lot outside, and I was
Really?
wondering,
Okay.
yeah, that's that like spicy air, like
Yeah.
spicy Bay air.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And is this your first time to San Francisco?
Yeah, this is my like first like real stay. Yeah, I've basically flown through before, but this is like,
Okay.
yep, yeah, this is like my first stay. So
Very
yeah.
cool. Anything you have planned with the remaining time you have before you head back?
Basically go. I think I'll go for a walk, somewhere outside. But otherwise, it's just to be pretty cool. So
Just low
yeah,
key for sure.
yep. Then I'm just like headed right back to St. Louis. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
yeah.
All right, so we have our final three kind of mindful tasting questions here.
Cool.
So we can just kind of go around the horn. So with this drink, Vaughn,
Yeah.
the first question is what do you know? Well, the questions are what do you notice, what do you wonder, and what does it remind you of? So we'll start with what do you notice? What do you notice when you drink the beer mosa?
What I noticed is that you stay pretty hydrated. I feel like I'm getting like a good flavor. I really enjoy that about. So this is like a really simple mixture, but you can always like hype up which other one. So you can go with like some pulp orange juice, which sounds like kind of odd, but you can like do the pulp orange juice mimosa, or like you can choose the different flavors. You can like really fine tune it how you want to. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Jake, what do you notice?
There's a musk, like the beer orange combo. That's just like it has like a heft to it, and I really like that. The viscosity is something I'm drawn to in it. How about you, Rick?
Yeah, I like that. I think that puts it into words for me too. There is a thickness.
I think you're the one doing it right with that stemmed glass with the stemmy.
It's
I
very
think that's right.
fragrant.
I think-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like it like separates the beer flavor from like the hoppiness. So I'm getting this kind of like sweetness, but then just getting kind of this like unadulterated hoppiness as well. And they're kind of like, they're friends. They're arm in arm. About this drink, Vaughn, what do you wonder?
I wonder what are the other possibilities. How many more things I can mix orange juice with? I mean, it's all about the orange juice. That's like really what it is to me.
It's all about the orange juice.
OJ over everything.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm gonna. I don't know if I have any wonder in me, but I wonder if everyone drank one of these at 8:30 a.m. How would the world be? If you just got one beer mosa in every day. What would that do for the world? Maybe government sent beer mosas. What would that do for all of us? Forget a UBI. I want a beer mosa for free every morning. That's what I want for all of us.
It's like some conservative tweet. What do you want next?
right
Beer
there.
mosas every single day for free?
And the answer is yes. Major yes. I will vote for anyone on that platform, the Beer Mosa platform. Let's go.
Yeah, it makes me wonder what other things that I'm just not giving a chance to.
Oh,
I thought that this would just be bad. I thought it would be bad.
really?
Yeah, I was not looking forward to. I've never had one, and it doesn't seem to make sense to me. So I'm sure there
I
are.
think it makes quite a bit of sense, but I'm glad it gives you this sense of wonder, Truly, wonder's a great word for this, Rick. I think you're right on that.
Yeah.
So I think that I wonder what else I'm not giving a chance. And the
So everything. Everything is what you're wondering. You've opened up Pandora's box. I gotcha.
and the last question is like, what does it remind you of in a broad sense?
Yeah, it reminds me of my studio for sure.
Mm.
Reminds me, it's like a great thing to take to the studio for me. I just like have a beer mosa real quick, Go ahead and sip on that and paint. Yeah, I really enjoy that.
For sure.
Yeah, reminds me of the studio.
We'll look at the work later and be like, oh, that's the beer mosa.
It's the beer mosa coming through right
Oh,
there.
I see the beer
That's the
mosa
vibe.
coming through.
Yeah.
What does it remind me of? Again, it sounds like I lead a bougie lifestyle. I'm at public courses, but I'm on the patio out after just doing a 9 with my dad and brother of golf, and I'm sweating, but I'm feeling good. I felt the ups and downs that golf gives you. You knocked it in the woods, you got a good putt. It's like real life, and I'm feeling kind of sticky, but I got this drink, and sun's out, skin's kind of burning a little bit, but it feels good. It's like a good burn. You know what I mean?
Reminds you of the
Yeah.
course.
I'm sweating. I'm feeling the vibe. You know what I mean? For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Rick, how about you?
I think for me, I can see myself in the future using this as kind of like the better version of what I thought. Like one of these days when we can all party together and get hungover together, and then we'll go to Southwest Diner and get some beer mosas and recoup and talk about the previous night's victories.
There we go.
The spoils.
Victorious. Let's go.
In the chat, Denise says vitamin C infused art.
Ooh.
And T Green Girl says Jake's the golf guy.
Yeah. Am I overselling that? Do I need to chill out? Let me know if my character development on this show as the golf guy. I can reel it in a little bit.
I think.
Or should I let everyone know when I'm gonna make a golf joke and just say 4?
Oh God.
All right. Well, this was fun, guys. I'm gonna head out. Vaughn, have a great show.
It was good
Love your
having you
work.
here as a
Bye, guys.
co-host.
This is great. We'll see you later.
Yes. So, Jake, your new segment.
Oh yes.
You have a
I'm
new
so excited.
segment.
I sure do.
We're just
Well, okay.
workshopping all kinds of stuff live today. So thank y'all for being here.
We're jamming. We're jamming live here on the Travel Agency on Art Brunch.
If you're enjoying the show, drop a follow. If you want to support the channel, we have a Patreon, or you can subscribe to us on Twitch. Whatever you feel like
Let's
doing.
do it. Cool,
Show the
man.
love, y'all.
Yeah, I'm here.
So for the OGs who've watched the show, what I used to have was Jake's Astro Nook, where we would talk to artists about their astrological sign, a few characteristics of it, let them know the rappers that are also that sign for them to kind of have a greater sense of the community that they're part of, and then would kind of ask them questions about if any of those descriptions or persons out in the world kind of they feel akin to. Well, we did that for a while. It was fun. I'm glad we did it. But we actually have our own astrological show where we deep dive on every sign, and it's a dance party. It's Club Stars Line, as Rick mentioned earlier. It's the show I co-host with my mom as artists in residency here on the Travel Agency. So it's like, you know what? We have a whole show dedicated to astrology, and it's no shade. I just like, let's just keep it there. People want that stuff, go there. It's just marketing, let's give the people what they want. So what I realized is like, well, what do I already do so much of on a weekly basis that I could add to the show?
Mm-hmm.
And that is spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on Twitter. And there's just so much conversation happening there. And anytime just that past week, I'm like, I want to share this. I want to talk to people about this. So I was like, we just need to talk about these tweets with our artists that we have on this show, and kind of do like this sort of discussion like we would anyway at brunch.
Because
So
our Twitter is like a thing.
art Twitter. Oh my God, it's such a thing. And and I think everyone has like a social media that they kind of favor a bit. And Twitter recently has been where I actually care to be. And just quickly, I think is really interesting as like artists. I specifically being a photographer, you only get 4. You can post images on Twitter, and you can post 4, but you can load images in there into 4K resolution. And whereas Instagram, just cramps your style and crushes your work,
Yeah.
despite it being like the art or photo based app.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Absolutely.
that's something I'll need to explore, and maybe we can explore a little bit here. But I'm curious the future of Instagram and Twitter for the artist world. So before we get into that, I think we have some curated tweets that I've sent over to Rick
Mm-hmm.
for us for discussion. And I think we're going to start with this one, who comes from Dean Kissick, who is a really incredible writer for Spike Art Magazine, is on the New Models podcast, just really great artist in general, too, but then art critic, too. So there's this tweet that he is responding to that says,
This is
Basquiat
wild.
drawing to be... Basquiat drawing to be auctioned as an NFT, and the winning bidder will be given the option to destroy the original piece. So the person above this says, what does it say? I'm sorry, I gotta zoom in here. Rick, what does that say just above it?
I am absolutely fucking sick.
Yes. So what Dean writes here instead, as I pop this out and not look like an old man with my glasses, let's see what people think. Basquiat's belong on walls of museums and galleries, on Zara t-shirts, on Uniqlo t-shirts, on Mango t-shirts, Urban Outfitters t-shirts, an off-white hoodie, Coach handbag collaborations, Herschel Supply Co. jackets, button-up Supreme shirts, very exclusive, limited edition. First thoughts, anybody? What are we making from this tweet here?
I mean, it's another iteration of Basquiat's work and how it's just been split everywhere. I mean, you see it on everything. There's this iconography, that work that Basquiat is so known for is the time, but it's so Basquiat is part of the time frame, and that work that everybody knows now was like made like in that 4 years. This is like his most popular work, and now it's the sensation, and it's been thrown all over the place. And now this whole NFT thing, which is this like very quick to consume or very quick to turn over thing, is another iteration of his iconography just being kind of spread out again. So that article is crazy because it's another iteration. It's just yet another iteration. Like he's going into the 3D realm even further. And it's just like it's just his images. It's no longer the artist. It's just what we like consume part of the artist.
Do you like that? Like, do you like that his work has kind of gone into this space of like almost like the Che Guevara shirt, where it's like the shirt itself is an entity, no longer is it actually like even Che Guevara, which is maybe a weird example, but like this past week too, and unfortunately don't have an image of it, but the Brooklyn Nets did a Basquiat influence like his work of their jerseys.
Yeah,
and
it's kind of
uniforms.
anti-object, which is quite difficult for me as an object maker, because it's now becoming this very quickly consumed. Now we're talking about NFTs, it's even more quickly, more easily destroyable. It's even faster. It's even, we look at art to slow us down. And now Basquiat's paintings are being auctioned as NFTs. Like, it feels like we're in the dark zone. Like we feel like it feels like
the dark zone.
It was like, that's very tough. That's very tough to swallow, I think, as an artist, now that this person's art's being auctioned off as NFTs when he made the most wonderful paintings.
Totally.
Yeah, especially with
man was a painter.
that option to destroy the original piece in that title there is like, that seems unnecessary to even like
who
include
made that
that
decision
as a part of the conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think it worked clearly because we're talking about it, and that's exactly why they did it. But I think if I was to like journalistically interpret this tweet, I think Dean is trying to say like, oh my God, this is so. This person below is saying, oh my God, this is so terrible. Like they get to delete, destroy the original NFTs, but like clearly not many people are raising eyebrows to Basquiat everything on
Mm.
Brooklyn Nets jerseys, but maybe people are too. I mean, might just be one of those like infighting bubble Twitter moments, but because I hate to say, like, I think that the Brooklyn Nets jerseys, like, I don't know if design wise it was cool particularly, and I really feel bad that I don't have the picture, but I go find it, y'all. And then, but at the same time, that sounds sick. Like if I was at a Brooklyn Nets game and they're like, "Hey everyone, we've got the Basquiat jerseys on," I'm like, "That's kind of cool.
I mean, they're cool. It sounds cool. Yeah, it
That
definitely
sounds
does. It
sick."
definitely has a ring to it.
It does.
But it's this. I think the impermanence is uh, deprives some of
Dis-
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
For
that,
sure.
my other questions would be, and I don't know if we have answers to these, but my other question would be, I think this
Oh, we've got
is,
the Nets jerseys here. Perfect.
yeah, these are.
We got the Nets in parentheses. Yeah, with the color.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that my question would be, um, also like how is the state managing this? I think I have like lots of questions about, how artists' estates are managed. If like all of this uh, reproduction of this work is like through private collectors, if it's through the estate, and like what the estate is kind of situated to do with the
Yeah.
artist's work moving forward. Those are some things that I definitely would want to look further into, as well as like placing this in in relation to the legacy of Basquiat, and like who's running that estate, like who's allowing this to happen, or if this is this strictly like the financialization of artists, if
Right.
collectors are able to do this because of their rights, and then like how when you own the NFT, like you are owning kind of like all of the rights to this, or some of those issues
Right.
that come up with like ownership, because like on one hand artists are talking about like NFTs as being like a method of receiving royalties from the sale of their work, which is something that's really important and is not happening, but also like can those structures like further erode artists' control of their work based on like how those contracts are set up.
Absolutely.
Those are some
Well,
of the-
and sorry, go ahead, Vaughn.
Yeah, it sounds like that's another. It sounds like that's an option for artists. It sounds like NFTs are an option for artists to. Seems like sketches. These seems like these things that are thrown out kind of like sketches in your notebook. Something that you kind of like look back on, you collect, you compile. It seems like something that can be done and used that way. But I don't see NFTs as a long-term replacement for galleries or for object making. Just generally, I think artists have to make objects, and objects have to be moved. There's always got to be an object. I think I don't think we can go to a art being digitized to that
a
to that
token-based
standard.
system of contemporary art.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
and this
I think at some point it probably will be that kind of thing. It'll be
right.
like, here's my NFT token. Now
Mm.
use this point of it.
For
Mm.
sure. Well, and this is an artist who's passed, and I feel like a lot of like the work with the contemporary artists and their discussions of like how these living artists can maintain a living through that. But this is just truly from an estate, and some estate said, we want to get in on this, and we're sitting on, a Basquiat pieces or a drawing in this case. And so it does seem a bit evil, at least initially.
Yeah.
There is something here that feels a bit sinister in the fact that Basquiat can't represent himself in this space at all. Um, so, and I think that's not something I've truly considered yet either. But and we haven't even mentioned, and I'm mentioning it for the sake of people knowing that we're in the know. We haven't even mentioned the environmental impact of the NFT, but that's for another time. We can
Yeah.
move on from that. So,
I'm gonna go to your next tweet
do
of
we
the
have
week.
yes, let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, so this person here, I don't know who they are, but you know what? Well, that's fine. Um, Huge congrats to anyone doing anything when more than ever doing something sucks. Also, big shout out to people doing nothing. So, to our friends who are doing something, even though doing something sucks, shout out to you. And big shout out to people doing nothing. Vaughn, I'm curious what comes to mind when you how does feeling How
I
are
was
you
thinking
feeling when you're doing something?
I thought this was like a tourist season tweet, you know.
Okay, we're back
My
to
birthday was
yeah,
a couple days
the
ago,
Astro
you
Week.
know. So it's a few days ago actually. So
Yeah.
yeah, I totally feel like this is, you know, because there's also if you're doing something, but also if you're doing nothing as well, you know, it's that balance of those two, which is
Hmm.
totally part of the practice.
Yeah.
Mm.
How do you balance that for yourself? How do you balance doing something and nothing?
Yeah, it's really important for me to I feel like I just keep going until you know until the work's kind of finished. Like I feel like like a serial maker at some points. Then I'll take long rests from work, from working, from making. I'll make canvases. You know, I'll paint every day for months at a time. Then I'll have a time when I'm just like recuperating, like kind of just like looking at all the work, seeing how everything is, how everything was made, and how to process it, like processing down these things. It's kind of these like long marathons
For sure.
um, of work. So like the back to the tweet, like doing something and nothing at the same time. I feel like they're longer. They're like longer periods of that. For me, as far as my practice, like you know, the painting, like the creative practice is concerned. So
Mm.
For sure. Well, and you seem to me as someone whose brain is never off though. And I wonder if that's true of like all artists actually in the end of the time and at the end of the day because like even when we're doing nothing, we're still thinking, we're still doing something, we're still like taking in inspiration. But maybe there are artists out there who just like literally just like if I'm not in the studio, I am not in my art practice. And I'm curious if any of those spaces speak to you like can you ever really turn your brain off? Can you ever really quote unquote do nothing?
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's kind of. I think so. I mean, I think at some
Okay.
point, yeah, I feel like you know, I think there's definitely like I gotta keep time, and you know, that's like
Yeah,
super important. So I feel
For sure.
they're definitely like restful moments for sure.
Definitely.
it's a
That's
skill
cool.
too. It's something you have to cultivate. You know, I think that
Yeah,
like I know for me the kind of like natural place that I tend to is uh, like doingness anxiety of like you know when I'm not engaged in doing that like there is this natural tendency to want to be engaged in doing or to be thinking about doing but I think there's a skill and like a lot of work in separating yourself from having to make work or having to always be thinking about work. Like I want to be able to go to a cabin and not think about my practice for a little bit. Not
Mm.
be like, "Oh, the movement of that branch." You're like, "Nah, bro,
Yeah.
just chill, dude. Just chill."
You're not sitting
everything's
there
art.
thinking like trees are the ultimate sculpture. Why do I even bother?
Uh-huh.
They're
Yeah, that too.
that's me. That's me. That's what I do.
But nature's the art, man.
But dude, put a tree in a museum? Like, what's that
But
about?
I'm
Okay.
nature.
And all right, so I feel good about that.
Yeah.
Rick, I think for the sake
Yeah.
of time, we're probably gonna have to skip one of them of the other tweets I have. I think we should go to the one I sent you a while ago, which was the Mads Mikkelsen tweet.
Okay.
I think that one is a good space to
I
explore
I
just
think I'll just
before.
read this out. All men
Okay,
can
yeah,
be
read it out real quick.
categorized as either a Mark Rothko stan or a Francis Bacon stan, and which one they are says the world. Sometimes they're both.
We just go around the horn
This
real
is a
quick.
hot
Who are
take.
we? Yeah, who's a Rothko stan and who's a Bacon fan? I'm gonna go Rothko here.
I feel like I'm shifting. I feel like I was the Rothko stand. Now I'm merging into the Francis Bacon stand because now I notice them more in museums, and if I
Mhm.
go there, I'm spending more time with them, which I never used to do. I used to typically spend a lot of time with the Rothkos. I can just sit
Mm,
there and look at the colors, and now there's something about Bacon's his those marks. You know,
mm.
is a whole different experience now. I think with me, so I guess I'm changing.
You're
There you go.
shifting.
Yeah, I'm like
and, and that says the world. I'm classic Mark Rothko stan
Yeah,
for sure.
that makes sense. So I actually brought the tweet up on my own giant screen so Grandpa
Okay.
Jake over here can read the tweet. So that's on me. So we're set up here. This last tweet here is from @LucyJ_Ford. They're saying this answer from Mads Mikkelsen, who is a Danish actor, has literally stopped me in my tracks. And there's a screenshot here of a quote from an interview. It's kind of a paragraph, but I swear it's worth it. The question is there a life philosophy that you feel has carried you through your career? And Mads Mikkelsen says, my approach to what I do in my job, and it might even be the approach to my life, is that everything I do is the most important thing I do. Whether it's a play or the next film, it is the most important thing. I know it's not. I know it's not going to be the most important thing, and it might not be close to being the best. But I have to make it the most important thing. That means I will be ambitious with my job and not with my career. That's a very big difference because I am ambitious with my career. Everything I do now is just stepping stones leading to something, a goal I might never reach, and so everything will be disappointing. But if I make everything important versus let's see. Anyway, if I make everything important, then eventually it will become a career. Big or small, we don't know. At least everything was important. So that spoke to me, and I'm curious how this is speaking to y'all. And this, our friend Lucy Ford here, this is a picture of somebody. This is how they felt reading that, which I also feel very comforted by that. So
In a warm
I'm
pink
curious on.
poncho.
Yeah, right. That's the kind of quote it was. So, I mean, yeah, how does that feel to you, Vaughn, in terms of, each thing you're working on now is important versus thinking about it in this big, broad sense?
Yeah, I think following off the last conversation about the regarding the NFTs, I think this quote really feels like this tweet really feels like it's getting down to the feeling or like the quote unquote the thing you wake up for every day. Like
Right.
that's the kind of vibe this tweet has. So and I feel that partially with the work. I feel like there's a distinction with my work where I'm trying to I'm always trying to find that new rhythm in the work or like that new set of goals, the new completion with it. Yeah, there's always a new composition with this work, and I'm always really excited when I'm able to make to make
Mm.
and to also like to not make or to just look like being out in San Francisco is really cool right now because I'm just able to just like view and to pull in new meaning from this like from the country, which is I'm super excited about. Um, yeah, so I think that tweet's like really interesting. It's like really dense, and like deep like in its kind of philosophy, which is really cool. Like it can always get there. There's always a way, and I feel like it's art too. I feel like that's
Oh,
like really
absolutely.
part of like the artistic practice as well. It's just kind of having those different emotions. So
Well, it's funny. I love that you're the first artist we've ever had on who's inside one of their own shows, as they say it. So, like, as you're talking about this and you're like looking around your own show, I was like, wow, you can really you're in that space. As you're answering this question, you're physically in that manifestation at the same time. So,
yeah,
I really appreciate that answer and the space that you're providing it. I think that's really exciting.
yeah, this is pretty important. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's a good point to shout out Romer Young Gallery. Thanks to them for having us in their space today and sharing their space. I'm gonna pop those links in the chat so y'all can check in with Romer Young Gallery. Their current exhibition is with with Vaughn here, Schisms, and we'll get to that when we come back from our break. Also in the chat, there's a link to Monaco Gallery here in St. Louis and Vaughn's Instagram. So we're going to take our first break of the day here on that note. And just want to thank you all for being here with us. Thanks for the questions. T Green Girl says, loving that tweet segment. Me too. That was really good. I think that was like very good for Jake, very on brand, very golf. And we're going to take our short 10-minute break here. We're going to replay that intro commercial if in case you missed it. That kind of highlights the other shows that are on our channel with some tasty jams. So we will see y'all back here around 11:10.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
This project started to coalesce. I started to realize that travel agents and travel agencies first are going away. And I think that those words and that term and the beauty of that is so nice that I don't ever want it to leave. I don't want it to be replaced with Expedia. Uh, So I felt like kind of a personal responsibility as an artist to take care of that gray space of like what is going to happen to this word, what is going to happen to these terms, and find something that really feels like it fits it. So the travel agency operates kind of on this principle that many people who engage with the contemporary art community are tourists. And it's very difficult for people traveling to a new place for the first time to feel comfortable in that space. And the thing that the travel agency does, or travel agents do, is they use their expertise to translate local culture and norms to a tourist, to a visitor. And the process of giving that to them and making it clear to them is a way of like welcoming them into these beautiful new experiences.
But it's funny that you bring up Kiki's now, Kiki Salem's piece, which I feel like is totally so much different than Elle's piece.
Right.
You know, this one feels very, it is meant to be empowering and implicating the viewer and the reader in a very direct way. So I feel like, you know, yeah, and maybe more people took pictures of themselves in front of Kiki's piece because of that empowering aspect of it.
Yeah.
Also, I guess we can like talk a little bit too about like the digital audience. Like I think Kiki's particularly this one was like reshared so many times, and was just like it was really cool to see how far it spread that way. Yeah, they didn't have to be there, you know, to take a photo. They could just share the image that we took. But for them, it was like sharing her PSA.
There are a couple of things. Yeah, I wanted to bring this up because I thought it was kind of the most contrast of like this is one that I saw a lot more interaction with on social, or a lot more people kind of like being a part of this image. I feel like this speaks, you know, like this is one that you step into and you can own this message for yourself and engage in this message for yourself. And there are a couple of other things that change with this one. The banner style of the text is very unique and divergent for the scope of what we see PSA typically do. And and then I'm not actually sure of the timing of this, but I think that looking at this one and then also looking at Jesse Donovan's billboard, and thinking about them as like similar materials as well. So there's like this banner material, and then this like I think most often billboards are kind of like this tarp-like banner, you know, vinyl tarp material, and we have a detail of it here. Okay.
That's hand embroidery by Kiki.
Oh, wow.
That was a nice touch that she added to it as well.
Yeah.
Kiki works a lot with fiber arts, so
yeah, maybe that's why we were kind of drawn to working on, or we talked about doing banners with her, and she was really on board. She also like does tapestries in her work and a lot of fibers, so I think it really makes sense.
A big part of the banner decision for Kiki's work was because we wanted to accommodate the Arabic text, and so the way our infrastructure set up, it would have been difficult to cut out the Arabic text and place that. It wouldn't have fit on the wires so well, so that's why we opted for a banner approach.
That there are a lot of portrait work, but then there's also a lot of graphic design with some 3D elements on there. I'm looking, do you see the one that I'm showing right now?
Yeah, I can see that. That's titled either Ritual 1 or Ritual 2, but they're kind of based off me looking into like historically, like coming from like African roots, how we like use rituals like throughout time as Black people, whether it's from Africa, the Caribbean, you know, like American Black people. I feel like regardless of where you're located, like the idea of like ritual and like spirituality has always like played a huge part in the culture as a whole. So this is me kind of like Not direct. This is not like a direct, like, oh, this comes from this spiritual practice, but it's definitely like a shout out to spirit boards and divination and like the different ways that we would use like fortune telling and different things like that. So this is kind of like a representation
Mm-hmm.
of that practice, like having shapes and like in different tribes in Africa, like they'll paint shapes on their houses and on their huts to represent certain ideas, whether
Mhm.
it's like goddesses or representing protection or whatever. So this is like my take on symbols that to me represent protection, but also historically, like the triangle, the pyramids, or the idea of the eye and like mirrors, like reflecting back to you. So it's a lot of that, like a lot of personal interpretation about like divination and spirituality, but also like historical as well.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Club Stars Line. I'm your co-host, Jake Leach, and to my left on your screen is my mom, Denise Hewlett. Hi, Mom. How are you doing?
Oh, hi, son. How are you? We ready to do
I'm doing
this
quite
today?
peachy. Yeah, we're going to
Oh,
do this today. Well, so a lot has happened. I'm already out of breath. My God, we're just so hype in this. Mom, you're kind of somewhere else.
yeah.
The people can't really see, but we've got you're actually in space. It looks like.
Yeah.
So you're looking back onto the planet. Did you take like a Tesla rocket? Are you at the International Space Station? Where are you exactly right now?
That is a view of the Earthrise. And no, I am not in the space station. I am in my transit van in the high desert in Joshua Tree, California. That's where I'm. Shall we go ahead and show people? Should we
Yes,
do the
show
big
people
reveal?
where you're at. Let's take
Okay,
a
so
look
let me
here.
go ahead and open the van door.
Okay,
All right.
good.
Kind of bright, y'all. Can you see it?
Yeah,
can
Mom,
we
here,
see
bring your computer over so people can kind of see.
Am I doing the right?
Yeah,
Too far too?
that's why don't you go out and stand in it real quick, Mom, just to prove that it's not a green screen.
Hello, y'all.
Exit the van entirely. Go. This ain't no joke, y'all. Yeah, there she is, out in the world. We love to see this. Yes, bye, Denise. My mom said, or my mom, little Miss Gabby says, we got the chat blowing up over here.
Oh my goodness.
Ghost riding
All
the
right.
whip over here. So
Okay, so we will be checking on the sunset periodically over the next hour and a half, but right now it is blazing, so I need to close it. So here we go.
okay, yes, get that door closed here, nice and cool.
Yeah. Yes. Although, speaking of blazing, I also have my. Can you see this?
Yeah, what do we have
I
here?
have my UFO incense thing going. So just to complete the whole thing, you know.
It's a full sensory overload, a full sensory
Yeah.
experience you have going on here.
Isn't that interesting, Jake? Isn't that gonna? Yes, isn't that interesting?
Is
Keep
that
in
something that
mind.
might come up later on?
That might exactly.
Okay.
So here we go. Now this is gonna be loud. Okay,
All right,
for
here we
those-
go, friends.
Yeah. Okay, ready?
Everyone cover your ears. Okay. Ooh, goodness.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are back here with our guest today, Vaughn Davis Jr. Thank you for watching, tuning in. I hope you're enjoying this Twitch experience. If you are, you can support the channel by clicking that follow button for free. We're going to get back into our conversation here with the friends. Y'all, welcome back. Hope you had a good break.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
great
You
break.
too.
Thanks a lot.
10 minutes flies by on these breaks for us, for sure.
It does.
But it's a nice stopping, nice place to kind of find ourselves and reapproach the conversation. So in this part of the show, we like to focus in on the artist's work. And on that note, there's a little blurb from Vaughn's show, Schisms at Romer Young Gallery, that I'd like to read, and then we can go into some of the viewing. It's quoted, "Since its inception, my painting practice has turned itself through me as a composition of systematic cuts and imprecise colors. These systems are predicated upon the dismantlement of the picture plane and the deconstruction of the painting process. Through the process, I create objects of madness. It's an inherited chaos through their occupation in this time. Each canvas is multiple expressions within itself, splatter, spill, die, tear, fray, to become a powerful chronicle of our time." So we're looking at some of the slides here. I mean, you can see some of that work behind Vaughn as well.
Like picture in picture. That's great.
Yeah.
It looks like oh no, okay. I can see it. So yeah, we have these slides here. I think a great place to start would just be Vaughn, if you could tell us how this show came to be. Give us some history, and I met both Joey and Vanessa at different times in preparation for the show, and they're amazing people. But I think I would like to know, and our audience would like to know, kind of the inception of this show, and then we can talk about some of the work in it.
Great. Yeah. This show came about just through some great communication, which is really awesome. This show came through COVID as well, which was a really different show. I mean, this is a really different experience for both the gallery and myself here, because for the first time for me, I'm so hands-on with my practice. Typically, I'm always there to install. There's being so much for so long on a local level. In my practice, or being able to travel with my work, just generally being able to travel with the work to facilitate installation of the work. This work is so tactile, it's always changed, and it's always something different every time it's installed or every time it's being re-seen. There's some of these things are irreplicable when for the installation. So this show was, again, very different. For that reason, there was a lot of digital communication on the behalf of us, attempting to put this show together, which is really interesting, because I think we made an interesting show as far as the work compiled. Like, it was really cool because Joy and Vanessa, they were here with me like the entire time this work was being made. So there's this process of, like, since the inception of these paintings, they were here to kind of say and like see the work as it moved around in the studio. So that was cool.
So are you saying you made these works for this show?
Yeah, a lot of these works were made for the show.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of these works were made for this show, which is really cool. And there's some works that are not in the show that are like only seen digital right now. There are more works on there, and those can be seen on Artsy as well. So that'll be a cool way for people to see the rest of that work.
Is that a practice that you've been engaged in with previous shows? I think for Ascending Forms at Coca, that work was also made for your solo there. Is that something that you do on a regular basis?
Very similarly, yeah. I really enjoy the idea of some kind of specificity as far as the work is concerned. That's really important for, I think, my practice. I think that's really important for me to engage this other aspect of my work, which is that barrier between painting and sculpture, that barrier that is between the way I literally practice painting. For me, painting is no longer on the square. I've decided to take these things off of the square. So now what's left is this fabric-like, tattered but painted object. These things are totally still paintings, but it's about that deconstruction of the process and that use of the D. It's like the undoing of specific parts of the painting practice.
And this word schisms, where did that come up in the process?
Yeah, so schisms is kind of it's this other iteration. I've been using I've been wanting to use vocabulary that is around the practice itself, or like around the process itself. So schisms is this idea of this like division. It's like you're like kind of like at faults, or like it's like a part of a battle or of some kind. So I wanted to talk about completely talk about in this work as well, this like division of the space, these division of these cuts and these lines in the canvases.
Yeah, I want to slip.
Yeah, and I mean, I just looked up the definition real quick. A split or division between strongly opposed sections or parties. I mean, I mean, if
Literal,
that's not
right?
that, or we're not all experiencing that in so many different ways. I think that's
Yeah,
incredible.
it's literal and conceptual at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and with these works here, we can almost we can almost see that. Excuse me. We can almost see the kind of like what would be considered this square that you refer to, what you consider this rectangle. Actually, like we can almost piece these works back together to that form. Like there's a little bit of this energy for me looking at these works to understand how they go back in time as well into finding these rectangular forms versus like the first images that we looked at. I guess the long one, the one that's directly behind you, the very elongated piece, doesn't have its nature kind of originally set at like a painting scale or like as a rectangle or something that you'd ever see. But in these, can really feel the rhythm of like what it could have been if the interventions weren't the same, or if the interventions weren't there, that they can like reform in the past to these rectangles, but maybe not.
That's a good observation, actually, Rick. Yeah, because part of the work is that the work is divided. I've never subtracted any part of the canvas from any of these canvases. So in theory, the viewer with your eyes, you could put those works back together. If you lay them flat on the ground, or if they were sewn together or remended, they would be in the original square that it came off of. Which is definitely always been part of the iteration of this practice, is like, how do I keep it whole, but I want to expand. I wanted to make larger work, and I was trying to figure out a way also, like, if you make a 10 by 10 painting on a square, the implications of that versus the implications of something else, of this fabric-like object is much different. So yeah, it's part of its expansion.
And that hasn't always been a part of the practice. Like, for instance, at ascending forms, those were removed from their squareness, right? Yeah. So is that something that's specific to this show, or more specific and relevant to your current practice?
Yeah, I think it's kind of been throughout parts of the practice, back and forth quite a lot. Yeah, I think it's always been back and forth quite a lot with that, because see, in the piece that's behind you now, Rick, that can be put back together, and it's the original the original square.
Yeah,
it's one of those.
This is one of the earlier. I think I got this from you in 2018. Does that sound like the time
right.
when you made it? Yeah, so
that was around Vienna. There was a time, I think, after I came back from the summer in Vienna, as when you picked that work up for me, because I had just came back from Vienna and I hadn't painted in a while, because when I was living in Vienna in 2018 with Webster for my study abroad program, we were doing a lot more printmaking. It was the focus. Tom Lang was the professor. We went with him, and Brian Zimmerman as well. So there was more of a focus on site-specific sculpture. I did a lot of printmaking. I did some clay work. And I was just outside in Vienna quite a lot during that summertime, myself and the other students at Webster in the art department. So that was cool. So that painting came about after I got back. So I guess I had absorbed a lot of the views of that town, then came back and painted that work outside in St. Louis, just in the heat of St. Louis, mid-August.
Mom's backyard.
Yes, Mom's backyard, making paintings.
I want to get to that in a moment. I'm sorry, Jake. We have a pertinent comment here in the chat. I like the colors. I know the topic is deeper than pretty, though, from Skate Mom. So, but I think that is a relevant take, right? I mean, I think that we can look at these works here at Schism and recognize them as beautiful, The colors themselves are enticing, they're appealing. And I think most recently, there was a while where your work, and maybe we'll show some of this, were very monochromatic. And then now with the addition of these colors that I like to think of as sometimes tropical, sometimes fruit, pineapple, oranges, beer mosa type colors, in that like I, I I think that these are maybe I'm out of my mind, but I think that these are very conventionally beautiful, and I'm curious to you how you kind of resolve uh, like the meanings kind of as we described in the intro to these works with their beauty.
Yeah, those are a great comment. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to think about these works as more than their appearance. I think that's something that I think all painters have to grapple with. I think as far as the practice is concerned overall, is the beauty in painting. I think there will always be that. I think there's always a history of painting. There's always a painter who made something more beautiful than the next painter, and the next painter will always make something more beautiful than the next. The aesthetics are un undetachable with painting. So I think we always have to think about beauty and what is color, and because essentially that's painting, right? Which it's all based upon what we're putting on this flat surface. We're replicating life, or are we attempting to like redefine life through this through this painting? So I think beauty is totally there, and but I think it can be more than I think painting can be totally be more than beauty. Um, at the same time, I think my work, I feel like when the work comes out of my head, I'm like, oh, this work's gonna be just like chaos. But then it ends up being this like very beautiful, like fruit-like colors, like you said, mimosa-like colors, very sunset-like colors. And I think this is a phase that the work is in right now as well, which is really interesting. There are more monochromatic works. There have been darker works I've made. Um, so I think right now in this show, I was really inspired during this time, and I really wanted. I think this is like really tracking where I was at during the time of making this show. Like I think I was attempting to create a lens within this work during COVID, where it was just myself in my studio thinking about just thinking about the happiness that once was pre-COVID, and like missing all my friends and missing so many people. I was like, I have to keep myself excited in this. How am I going to make this work to keep myself, yeah, to keep myself happy? So I made this work. Then I sat and then I tore all the work up. All this like beauty I put into the work, all this
Yeah.
prettiness, into the colors, I go and tear it up. And
Well, totally. Well, I think the talking about that, like I had, a lot of people I think in COVID have this, like I had all these beautiful plans and now they're ripped up. I feel that experience seeing this work, and specifically like saying this, like, the idea of a schism, again, a split or division between strongly opposed sections or parties, as so says the internet. I noticed a lot of these pieces are pictured in pairs. So there's kind of these two parties that are schismed, these two sections that kind of maybe a before and an after. I could see like maybe this particular one, any of these that Rick you have up, someone could put in their brain like, this is my 2019 self and here's my post 2020 self on the right, and both can be beautiful. It is tragic what's happening and what has happened, but I think that from crisis can come opportunity. So I think this idea that I'm curious, one, are these to be taken in as two pieces at once, just as a first question, and then second, I'm curious too, like even on the install and these pieces, like kind of battling between the space of like before and after, or opposing parties in either or left right kind of situation.
Yeah, so this is an installation of my canvases. I would call this. I think because the way the show was photographed and the way we wanted to pair the works next to each other as they were being photographed. That's why you see multiple in each photograph there. But yeah, I would call this an installation of my practice, and that's something I'm steadily wanting to go towards. Is this idea of that the work is somehow fitting into the space, and using the inspiration of a space in order to, because the works very much so are grappling with the wall and the floor of the works. I've always been really interested in that aspect of it as well. As far as the installation are concerned, the work is the pairs. But back to your comments on the pairs, that's really important to the work because I'm typically on these works, I paint on both sides of the canvas.
Mm.
So, say someone has the work in a museum or a home or a gallery, for instance, there is this added advantage of being able to see both sides. Um, so it's as if I'm making you choose which one to be seen or which side do you want to view at that time, which was really important to me. I felt like I was just being a bit indecisive when I was painting, or typically I feel like I'm indecisive when I paint. Or when I make artwork, I feel like I'm a bit indecisive. So I decided to paint both sides of the canvas in order to, lessen the decision making. Oh, cool. This is one of the works moving. Yeah, they totally move.
Wow. So there's even a schism inside of One Piece. there's
Yeah.
there's a one side or the other. That there's these opposing parties even just on one.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I like how you talk about it as being indecisive. I think that there's the I guess as far as terminology, I didn't catch it. Do you think of them as double-sided or reversible? How do you feel about those terminologies? Would you pick one over the other?
Oh, yeah, I think so. Are they double sided or are they reversible?
Mhm.
Huh. I'm going to mix it up and say I need both words.
Okay.
I think the word is both words. Another schism.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think about like I loved as a child I loved reversible like track pants. Like that was a thing for a while where you'd basically get like two pants for the price of one, and they would work, either inside out or outside in, right? And then alternatively, maybe not totally um, specific to this, but those pants where you could like zip off the legs, where you could.
Exactly.
They're back.
What are those?
They're back. Zip offs.
Zip offs?
It's
Is that what
just
they're
it's
called?
just yeah. I call them zip offs, but they're just now that where they zip off is just higher.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just much higher on the leg, so it's a little more fashionable
It's
when
above the
when you
knee.
make it a. Yes, it's like far above the knee usually. What I've seen.
So yeah, I think about those like these convertible objects is maybe another word for it. Like these cars that can be hard bodied, or you can like take the top off. These objects that are convertible in certain ways, or reversible, or double sided. And I think that you and I have personally talked about the relation of this work to fashion, to clothing, to wearables. And I'm curious if that's something that is coming up for you as a major part of your practice, as an exploration at this point, or is that something that's taking a back seat?
Yeah, I feel like I feel like that definitely. Yeah, I think it's something that has a. I think I'm here. I think I'm here for. I think I'm here for both of those.
Mm.
I think with my practice right now, I'm really interested in I think I really want to. The way I want to take the work, I want to scale the work. I want to use the work in a scale that's larger than the human body would allow me to use, because I think the thing
Mhm.
with fashion is that there's always the two armholes for your jacket, two pant legs for your legs. You need two pairs of shoes, two socks, and a shirt with holes, with
Mm.
like armholes and your neck hole, right? And your body, so there is such a specificity to fashion that I don't think I would right now. Yeah, there's the specificity in it. But even though there's a lot of specificity in these, there's a lot of simplicity in my work, of course. Like I think, but this specificity is what I'm really very much interested in right now. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
yeah,
fair, and I don't want to detract us from the conversation that we're having. It's just something
no, it's really
something that I
interesting.
tend to, yeah, something that I tend to. I mean, like there are spaces in these paintings that you could like in this one on the right, like imagine like putting your head through that hole, or and it's probably kind of right at view height, I would imagine,
Mhm.
that hole there. So these are interacting with the body. just in viewing space. But do you think that moving them into larger and larger scales will continue to distance them from like imposing our bodies into these works?
Yeah, it's really interesting that the question of the body. I think that's the overall topic within the work, because fashion is part of the body, which we said. I think that's really interesting that somehow we want to see faces in everything,
Mm.
right? It's like it's I think also because of the work in this to the scale that it is now, there is a sense of portraiture. I feel like there's always something that's like really interesting about how we see faces and things, like how
Mm-hmm.
we see the front of a car and we see the two headlights and the grill of a car and we see a face. So it's really interesting to play along with that, especially within this work here, especially at the angle it is. It's almost like this like abstracted portraiture.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a really interesting subject within the work, because there's a way to, I think it's because I'm relating it so clearly back to, or I think I would hope for this to be at some point in my practice where you can see my hand in this. You can see
Mm.
my hand in each work. Like I've put my body into this painting. I've like used these like large brushstrokes along the like horizontal brushstrokes on this one that we're reviewing now, um, and using that to relate it back to my body in the portraiture. Those are that's like pretty important with the practice. I feel like I'm always trying to like find different nuances in abstraction. I think that's one of the coolest parts about being an abstract painter, is that we can always like make things like pull and push um, different concepts along with us as we paint. Because I'm a painter, and that's like how I define myself now.
The relation to the front of a vehicle resonates with me in my personal practice, and
Yeah.
how the shapes and the lines indicate like a certain personality, and people like to indicate personalities. I love the personality of a GTR, right? Like that's who like I want to be hanging out with. That's kind of how I think of you, Vaughn. You look like you're like a GTR in my world. Um, you can it's a daily driver, a great friend, but also can get on the gas when you need to.
Get
Uh,
on.
something I noticed with your work, and I think it might have to do with the method in which you're distressing these surfaces, is that sometimes these works, because of the lines, because of what's possible with the way they rip and tear, is these faces in these works distort, or they fall somewhere between like agony and laughter, or there's some sort of like deep expression, like it's very emotional. As some of them, I think, like my work back here, I think right now is in like a very languid state, and that's something that we consider when we reorient this work. But these here, and I'm curious how this has affected you, that if these schisms, these rips lend themselves towards that space between like joy or like overjoy and also like agony, and how you negotiate the emotional qualities that are a consequence of your interventions in the surface.
Yeah, I think that's the use of like the intervention is really quite that. I think to begin the work, it feels so complete at first. I feel like when I'm painting, if we could go into a detailed shot of the work, yeah, there. I think that's a really good way to. I think this is a really great image to see and to begin how the work starts versus when by the time the work is complete and how I feel about it. Because here I'm using Rit dyes, I'm using acrylics, I'm using slews of paint. I mean, I'm using just like slews of paint on this canvas. It feels really complete. There's most of this work is the laughter when it's
Mm.
painting. Then there is a sense of agony of the mark as I tear the work. It's really interesting. I was always trying to find it when I started painting these works, or like making my work. I would say I really didn't know what I was doing too much. I was just kind of went in there. I feel like I was really naive
Mm.
at the same time. I'm really early on in this practice, and I feel like I wanted to keep that with me. um, quite wholesomely. Is so I started to tear this work up, which is really interesting. Like I wanted to make a mark that I didn't need a paintbrush. So I typically use sponges when I paint these canvases. So that's how, or I use a water hose, and I'll use that to make the work really the paint really kind of move on the canvas and like really dilute the painting. But
Mhm.
I feel like this is off the subject of your question though.
No, that's fair. I think when we begin to look at these details, it does take us into a lots of different spaces. For instance, like when we look at this, that periodelia, I think is the word for it, that wanting to see faces and objects. Here, maybe it's because we were talking about it, but this it seems more resolved in its form at from this distance. But when we do enter into the work and enter into its details, then it seems like our train of thoughts more easily get lost.
Definitely, yeah. I think that happens in abstraction.
Mm.
I think it's one of the beauties of it.
What's the tiniest marks? What are the tiniest marks that you make?
Oh, I've made some
Yes.
12 by 12 inch canvases. They're quite small, which was a very much a very good time for me because I was able just to sketch those ideas out.
Mm.
Like only a couple of inches, maybe even like a few centimeters of a mark. Those are really nice. Those I do those just basically in the studio and like in this in between time.
Mm.
Those are my sketches. So
Really
the work can
sharp,
be quite small.
really sharp X-Acto knife.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never thought about a small Vaughn piece. It's always been so big and and draping and dramatic, and I feel like a small one would be so like. Do you sit with
Yeah.
those pieces too? Like, do you sometimes look at them and be like, I need to do a small show. I need to do a show of miniatures
Miniature show.
like does that speak to you too in a lot of ways?
Yeah, I think it could. I think after a while, I have to build them up and let them and make many more of them because they're still really. I think I really enjoy when many small works compose a really large installation of works. I
Mhm.
really enjoy that idea of a scale of how it reminds me of like a colony of ants or like
I
bees.
was
Like
just
kind of
thinking
like
So
just like small things
Vaughn's show
make
for
this.
ants.
Yeah, like it's like a colony of works. I really
yes.
enjoy that idea as well. So I think that's how I would show them if they were shown. So
I th-
Well, and I always struggle too. For some reason, I always want big art. Every time I go somewhere, I want to see big art. I want to feel small in the presence of it because I spend so much time looking at art on a screen and it seems so small. But with your work, I think you're the first artist I can think of that I'm like, I'd actually be really curious to see small work. I wonder what that's about. Like I would really like to be able to kind of get into the small space of that. So here's to the colony. We'll think about that one sometime.
Yeah, and there are
totally.
tons of small spaces in these works. Something that I notice in on social media is lots of people when they view your work and tag you in their stories, they're taking photos of micro moments in the
Hmm.
work or the ways that these fibers are caught in kind of like the ambient wind of the room that they're in. Because like as you look closer and closer, you see that these pieces aren't static. There's not like giant like shop industrial fans blowing these pieces around, but with the lightness of these spaces, you can really they start to kind of like antenna into the rooms that they're in, and kind of like have this feeling quality to them. So
Yeah,
there's
I
a
think
lot
it's
to
really
that.
interesting
I
that this next image here is really kind of cool because I think it really kind of speaks about that it becoming this antenna into the space.
this.
Yeah, this idea of the work
Hmm.
coming from the wall to the floor. It's that merging upon what the work is, or like what the object is.
Hmm.
I think this work is a lot more conscious of it being a sculpture, or being some form of a soft sculpture, or how to use how to use a word to define a painting that is unstretched. I
Hmm.
think those are all of those other vocabulary words around that are really important.
Yeah,
So,
in regards to that, and to how these, remind us of forms, these works here, I think, have a lot less overt personality. I think that this work is acting more as kind of like an antenna or a thermometer. It doesn't have that same kind of like emotive laughter as the other ones. Do you agree
Yeah,
with
this
that?
work. Yeah, I think this work is interesting because when I found these works, these strip works, it's like these like strips of canvas here. The format is so odd to me because
Mm.
they're only about 12 inches wide or less, but they're 100 inches long. You know, so they're it's I was always when I found these works, it was because of an offcut of canvas that I was using in the studio. I was attempting to get this size that I was really wanting to use, and it's just kind of a very haphazard thing, which is really important to me. I think it's really important to the artist just in general. It's this idea of play and how that can turn into something that is part of your practice. This the idea of this format, this very long but very narrow painting, um, was very haphazard in that way. It was kind of found, and so now this work is like another iteration of this, and this idea of how it can um, yeah, how it can be part of the object and still be a painting. There is no overt personality in this work. I think that is because it's not as full in its entire form. You know, it's um, yeah. I think I've kind of gotten used in a way to seeing the work in a very square format. So this is
Mm.
like work was a challenge for me, I think, which is really nice. It was this really nice challenge of how to bring the body out of this work as well, which in relation doesn't feel anything connected to it.
Mm.
I see. So in the chat here, Software for Girls really likes this idea of a colony of work. Says a colony of work is fire emote. And I wanted to bring this up here as as an expression of one of these smaller works that you had on display at Dragon Crab Turtle here in St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah, that's one of them actually. Yeah, this show was really interesting. We're gonna get to that next. But yeah, this is like one of the 12 by 12s.
Hmm.
So it
Yeah.
was one of these works that I made. So when I made these works, they were on the ground and they were in a colony actually. So there was like a 6 by 6 form. So you know, I had like 36 of them, and I painted all of them together. So at some point, I guess these works can be put back together and it'll make the same square that they came from as well. So it's still formally, formally quote unquote part of my process of keeping the original square from which they was created. It can go back to that. So
That thumbtack though.
yeah, I saw this show of Sam Gilliam at the St. Louis Art Museum, and I saw it was installed with thumbtacks. Sam Gilliam is a very important abstract painter and who I admire, and his work was hung through using thumbtacks, and so I kind of brought that
It's good. It's good action there.
brought it in.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, it adds that otherworldly action for sure.
Do you wanna talk about how your show with Dragon Crab Turtle came up?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so the show at Dragon Crab Turtle, that show was pretty spontaneous. It was another show during COVID, which I had a studio visit with the gallerist there, who's in St. Louis, which is Catherine Bernhardt, who's a painter as well. And now we just did a studio visit, and she was like, "Yeah, like we want to show this work here."
Mm.
And so I had this culmination of these canvases that kind of came about what really early. I mean, these works were like super early in my practice. These are works that kind of like kind of had in the show and in my just because like I said, I was in my studio making this work during a certain time, and it was really interesting because I was just some of this work is also from Coca,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of goes back to that idea of the work and how some of these works, these quote unquote ascending forms, they became part of this exhibition as well. So the floor is a permanent installation by Catherine Bernhardt in St. Louis. So that's part of the show too, and she kind of found works up there that would, in a way, emphasize or wouldn't detach my work from the floor, which is just like this massive and permanent installation that's there.
Yeah. Not to detract us too far from the point, thanks for sharing that. We have a
Yeah.
comment here in the chat from Software for Girls. She actually wrote this right before we're talking about Sam. It said, "Would love to hear Vaughn's thoughts on Sam Gilliam and if he's influenced you. If you've already covered it, never mind." But then you mentioned Sam briefly, and she says, "OMG, that timing." But I wanted to just provide you a little bit more space if you wanted to share some of the connections that you feel or some of the influence that you've garnered from Sam Gilliam's work.
Definitely, yeah. I think his practice was quite large, quite heavy, as far as my being inspired by the work as well. There also, I just have a people that inspire me. There are a lot of artists that inspire me as well. I mean, I remember when I was at Webster, I would look over this Eva Hess. I would always rent this book from Webster's library, and totally there was something about Eva Hess's like formalism that always was. Always really enjoyed the repetition of her forms. So Eva Hess in her work and her post minimalist abstractions, those are really really quite important to me. But I'm also always been really very much interested in this in video and digital work, which is like quite something I'm totally painting right now. But it's always kind of interesting. I guess I can't choose my inspirations, in that way, So artists like Martine Sims is like she's quite always been is a very amazing artist who really inspires me as well. So yeah, but I think Sam Gilliam is really 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 amazing because he worked to scale. He really showed, in my opinion, what the scale that a painter could achieve in his practice, which is always quite something to look up to as far as that concern. And it's really cool when I see Sam Gilliam's work in museums. I feel like his work always fits. Like Sam Gilliam made that work, which he kept so much of himself in the work, so much of him, the artist Sam Gilliam, is in the work, but also every time you see it in a museum, there's a different movement, which is there, which is really cool. It really speaks really well to the malleability. He really speaks well to the malleability and what painting can be based upon the malleability of it as well. So,
Great.
Yeah, he's really quite interesting.
Thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, obviously influence is important. We grow as painters through being able to process these works that came before us, and there's that whole quote of like standing on the shoulders of giants, which I think is a totally fair play.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool because I think being an artist is really cool because there's always this history that we look at. There's always someone to be inspired by. There's always something to look to. There's always, you can get very close to the artist just by looking at their work and just by even attempting to look through their plane. Even attempting to, in a way, like make work to follow them. I think that's really really quite amazing. It's like a history lesson, and there's not. Yeah, I think painting is really great for that. I think the art making practice is just like really amazing for that. Being creative is, yeah, it's all history in motion.
One thing when I think about Eva Hess's work is that with the materiality of her work, it's a big kind of conservation and archival issue right now with those latex works and the degradation of that material. Something that we've talked about personally, but I think is important to bring up here is you are really considering the archival nature of these works as you move forward in your practice.
Now I am.
Yeah. Maybe not some of these that we're showing here, right?
New problems.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Yeah. Like this work here, I'm thinking about painting and learning how to paint in the journey up into that, in the journey of this use of deconstruction in my practice. I feel like some of the earlier works that I have, or some of the earlier works that I created, that even don't exist anymore because I just put clay on raw canvas.
Mm. Yeah.
And so that was back when I was using, I was practicing a bit of ceramics at Webster, and that was part of my learning, was this attempting to learn the processes of clay and just like and unlearning. So a lot of early work is just quite quite naive in the way that I made them. And I think that's part of I think that is something that's is really important to me, is like continually learning and kind of unlearning as well, like learn something to unlearn it. I think that's definitely part of my practice. So as far as this, a lot of these earlier works would, even this work here, this is an aluminum enamel on the canvas, and it's just kind of put onto the canvas with minimal fixative. I call this work Hammerhead. That's the name of that work there.
Yeah, I was a fan of this metallic when it was happening. There were some bigger works here. We've got a comment here in the chat from Tomas, and it reads, "Hey Vaughn, I'm curious to know your feelings about the balance between spontaneity and control when you make your pieces. For instance, if you're using a water hose to paint versus using a blade, the first one seems like it could produce unintentional results. When that happens, do you ever not like the outcomes and have to start over?" Thanks, Tomas, for the comment there.
Yeah, thanks for the comment. Yeah, I think that's totally part of I think that's partially why I paint on two sides of the canvas. I think it's really back to this idea of that the balance of both the spontaneousness and the use of certain systems in the work. The work is, although it's highly specific, I am painting on unprimed canvas, then I tear and or distress it. There are very few variables that I have in place for this work, but within that is where I think I hit the sweet spot when I'm painting, is that, okay, even though I'm painting on unprimed canvas, then I'm tearing it, I'm choosing to use a water hose, or I'm attempting to use multiple blades, or I have multiple colors that I'm using. Typically, I just like, as we can see on this work there, which is behind me, or yeah, even this work on the screen here, the use of the surface is, I never really need to start over. I think that's one of the things as well, which is really important to note. It's really rare that I start over. I just kind of let the process go until it's complete. I guess like I won't settle for the paint not being on the canvas.
Yeah.
I feel like that's I feel like that's tougher for me to not paint, or to not complete anything, than to complete something and not like it. I would just rather complete it and see where it goes, rather than start over.
Mm.
It speaks to me in like the idea of like, filmmakers have like a cutting room floor, like what didn't make it into the scene, and there. It seems to me like maybe there isn't a cutting room floor in some ways. I'm sure there are pieces that are at home that you're like, this one's never going to see the light of day, and maybe because you love it or you hate it, you never know. But and that too, like there are, the pieces are falling. There's like in many of them there's like falling elements. So there's like, to me, I can almost feel like you've like captured the scraps falling in real time, but then now they're suspended in the work in real time within that. So I think that's really interesting to think like your outcomes are kind of being recycled, or just it's just going to get remixed, or whatever kind of word you want to use.
Hmm. Yeah, I think these works they feel like one moment in time for me when they're made, which is really important, because I think, in my opinion, that is how these works are reflecting their time, and the time that they are created, and the time that I'm in right now is that from the beginning to the end, all the all the paint is being mixed up on the canvas. There's very much one time. So these works here, for instance, this is those are halves of the same whole, actually. So it's not. So these are halves of the same whole in a way. These were actually cut from one, but they were treated as completely separate pieces, completely different things as well.
Yeah. And
What's up, Grant?
from one of my observations is that, like, with the way that you create bodies of work, you specifically, Vaughn, is there are time periods, and you've made enough now in any particular time period that they find different types of groupings as well. So like a work might not function well in like the dragon crab turtle space, but it might function well in at Julius Caesar in Chicago, for instance. And how like over time the accumulation of those works, even if they in the moment don't hit the mark, or in the moment feel like the best thing ever made, that making of the work, actually just like doing the work of making the work, provides you with like a lot of possibilities with how you can continue to kind of like support your practice moving forward.
Yeah, I think unfiltering that moment between how I feel creatively in my mind versus how I want to feel creatively when I'm making the work. I think that lessening that filter between those two is really important with my practice and just painting and just being able to create something. I think it's okay for every work that an artist makes just not to love that work. It's okay just not to be in love with everything you make. I think that's super important for, I think just generally for all artists. There's that moment, moments where you feel naive or you don't feel as confident with the work. Those are feelings, and those are definitely valid. And those are okay to put into the work as well.
I think that really speaks to Rick and I's ethos, certainly too. I think we're very like, embrace. If you feel bad, embrace it and think about it and learn from it. There's no reason to shun it by any means. That's great.
Just make first. That's my philosophy. Yeah. Just make first and then figure the rest out.
For sure.
All right. Well, we're coming up on our second break here, if that feels good to you all.
For sure.
Cool.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we're going to take our second break, our final break today. It'll be for 10 minutes. We'll come back and we'll have another 30 minutes of this focused art talk. Vaughn and I will connect across the break and, make sure that we round this off nicely and cover anything else that we need to. We've been kind of freestyling though. Shout out to that freestyle show, the OG freestyle show. So maybe, 2016, Philip Sline. Well, maybe we'll get into that, but who knows? So we're going to take a short 10-minute break here. And thanks for everyone for the comments. Thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying the time here with us. We do this every Sunday with a different contemporary artist from, the community. So we've got some good guests lined up in the future. If you want to be notified when we go live in the future, just hit that follow button over here on Twitch or subscribe on YouTube, and you'll be notified when we go live. So we're going to take a short 10-minute break. And over the break, you will watch again our commercial for everything. Maybe it gets older. Maybe there's lots of people here who haven't seen it yet. So this will be kind of showcasing some of the other shows that we have here on the travel agency. We will see you soon.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
This project started to coalesce. I started to realize that travel agents and travel agencies first are going away. And I think that those words and that term and the beauty of that is so nice that I don't ever want it to leave. I don't want it to be replaced with Expedia. So I felt like kind of a personal responsibility as an artist to take care of that gray space of like what is going to happen to this word, what is going to happen to these terms, and find something that really feels like it fits it. So the travel agency operates kind of on this principle that many people who engage with the contemporary art community are tourists. And it's very difficult for people traveling to a new place for the first time to feel comfortable in that space. And the thing that the travel agency does, or travel agents do, is they use their expertise to translate local culture and norms to a tourist, to a visitor. And the process of giving that to them and making it clear to them is a way of like welcoming them into these beautiful new experiences.
But it's funny that you bring up Kiki's now, Kiki Salem's piece, which I feel like is totally so much different than Elle's piece.
Right.
You know, this one feels very, it is meant to be empowering and implicating the viewer and the reader in a very direct way. So I feel like, you know, yeah, and maybe more people took pictures of themselves in front of Kiki's piece because of that empowering aspect of it.
Yeah.
Also, I guess we can like talk a little bit too about like the digital audience. Like I think Kiki's particularly this one was like reshared so many times, and was just like it was really cool to see how far it spread that way. Yeah, they didn't have to be there, you know, to take a photo. They could just share the image that we took, but for them it was like sharing, you know, sharing her PSA.
There are a couple of things. Yeah, I wanted to bring this up because I thought it was kind of the most contrast of like this is one that I saw a lot more interaction with on social, or a lot more people kind of like being a part of this image. I feel like this speaks, you know, like this is one that you step into and you can own this message for yourself and engage in this message for yourself. And there are a couple of other things that change with this one. The banner style of the text is very unique and divergent for the scope of what we see PSA typically do. And and then I'm not actually sure of the timing of this, but I think that looking at this one and then also looking at Jesse Donovan's billboard, and thinking about them as like similar materials as well. So there's like this banner material, and then this like I think most often billboards are kind of like this tarp-like banner, you know, vinyl tarp material, and we have a detail of it here. Okay.
That's hand embroidery by Kiki.
Oh, wow.
That was a nice touch that she added to it as well.
Yeah.
Kiki works a lot with fiber arts, so
yeah, maybe that's why we were kind of drawn to working on, or we talked about doing banners with her, and she was really on board. She also like does tapestries in her work and a lot of fiber, so I think it really makes sense.
A big part of the banner decision for Kiki's work was because we wanted to accommodate the Arabic text, and so the way our infrastructure set up, it would have been difficult to cut out the Arabic text and place that. It wouldn't have fit on the wires so well, so that's why we opted for a banner approach.
That there are a lot of portrait work, but then there's also a lot of graphic design with some 3D elements on there. I'm looking, do you see the one that I'm showing right now?
Yeah, I can see that. That's titled either Ritual 1 or Ritual 2, but they're kind of based off me looking into like historically, like coming from like African roots, how we like use rituals like throughout time as Black people, whether it's from Africa, the Caribbean, you know, like American Black people. I feel like regardless of where you're located, like the idea of like ritual and like spirituality has always like played a huge part in the culture as a whole. So this is me kind of like not direct, this is not like a direct like, oh, this comes from this spiritual practice, but it's definitely like a shout out to spirit boards and divination, and like the different ways that we would use like fortune telling and different things like that. So this is kind of like a representation of that practice, like having shapes, and like in different tribes in Africa, like they'll paint shapes on their houses and on their huts to represent certain ideas, whether it's like goddesses or representing protection or whatever. So this is like my take on symbols that to me represent protection, but also historically, like the triangle, the pyramids, or the idea of the eye and like mirrors, like reflecting back to you. So it's a lot of that, like a lot of personal personal interpretation about like divination and spirituality, but also like historical as well.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Club Stars Line. I'm your co-host, Jake Leach, and to my left on your screen is my mom, Denise Hewlett. Hi, Mom. How are you doing?
Oh, hi, son. How are you? We ready to do
I'm
this
doing quite
today?
peachy. Yeah, we're going to do this today. Well, so a lot has happened. I'm already out of breath. My God, we're just so hype in this. Mom, you're kind of somewhere else. The people can't really see, but we've got you're actually in space. It looks like.
Yeah.
So you're looking back onto the planet. Did you take like a Tesla rocket? Are you at the International Space Station? Where are you exactly right now?
That is a view of the Earthrise. And no, I am not in the space station. I am in my transit van in the high desert in Joshua Tree, California. That's where I'm. Shall we go ahead and show people? Should we
Yes,
do the
show
big
people where you're at. Did you take like a Tesla rocket? Are you at the International Space Station? Where are you exactly right now?
That is a view of the Earthrise. And no, I am not in the space station. I am in my transit van in the high desert in Joshua Tree, California. That's where I'm. Shall we go ahead and show people? Should we
Yes,
do the
show
big
people where you're at. Let's take a
so
look
let me
here.
go ahead and open the van door.
Okay.
Alright.
Good.
Kind of bright, y'all. Can you see it?
Yeah,
can
Mom,
we
here,
see
bring your computer over so people can kind of see.
Am I doing the right?
Yeah,
Tip part two.
that's. Why don't you go out and stand in it real quick, Mom, just to prove that it's not a green screen.
Hello, y'all.
Exit the van entirely. Go. This ain't no joke, y'all. Yeah, there she is, out in the world. We love to see this. Yes, bye, Denise. My mom said, or my mom, little Miss Gabby says, we got the chat blowing up over here.
Oh my goodness.
Ghost riding
All
the
right.
whip over here. So.
Okay, so we will be checking on the sunset periodically over the next hour and a half, but right now it is blazing, so I need to close it. So here we go.
Okay, yes. Get that door closed here, nice and cool.
Yeah. Yes. Although, speaking of blazing, I also have my, can you see this?
Yeah, what do we have here?
My UFO incense thing going. So just to complete the whole thing, you know.
It's a full sensory overload, a full sensory experience you have going on here.
Isn't that interesting, Jake? Isn't that gonna? Yes, isn't that interesting?
Is that something that might come up later on?
That might, exactly.
Okay.
So here we go. Now this is gonna be loud. Okay,
All right, here we
those-
go, friends.
Yeah, okay, ready?
Everyone cover your ears. Okay. Ooh, goodness.
Hello. We're here. Welcome. Uh, my producer got me some, foundation across the break, so I had to cut down on a little bit of shine. The air conditioner in our house is really loud, and I don't want that sound, for the archive of this video. So this the kind of sacrifices I make for you all in your ears. Is that now I'm a professional. I turn the air conditioner off and put some foundation on, and we're just slowly turning into news anchors, which is actually kind of creepy sometimes when I watch the news. They look like too real. You guys ever get that vibe? Like, have y'all watched like 4K news in the last year?
Especially local news.
Local
maybe?
news, like 4K local news in the last year.
Uh,
I think I don't think in 4K. I don't think I have anything 4K compatible at this point.
You can
I
see
don't
into their
either.
souls, like
I'm sure. Yeah.
they're doing everything they can to differentiate themselves. 2
Yeah.
versus
I think-
4 versus 5.
I'm watching us over here. I think we look good and soft. We're
Yeah.
looking just right. Just right.
Yeah, we don't need the poor
Yeah.
cam.
Yeah, no, we're clean but soft for sure. For sure.
Welcome back, y'all.
Thanks.
Back to the show. My brief aside. I think the local news is a really strange spot to be.
Mm.
So yeah, we kind of ran the gamut of a lot of the recent shows, but I do think, let me pull up some other things here. So one of the funny one of the things that we didn't talk about at all is, for a while there, you didn't have any work being shown, Vaughn, and then it seemed like all of a sudden, like, oh, now Vaughn's work is like everywhere all at once. And I thought that was like really impressive. It was like no shows, and then there were, I think, like three or four concurrent exhibitions. Is that right?
Yeah, there were. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was 3 solo shows, then a couple group shows actually. So yeah, they all, it's kind of like I couldn't choose when it rained, and it kind of poured during that
For
time.
sure.
So it wasn't
And-
intentional.
No, it wasn't. I think it was just how all the communication just happened with the different spaces, and and I think just the way I practice, I think typically is I'll just make the work.
Mm-hmm.
Make the work here. Yeah, so that's actually now that works here in San Francisco. So what you're
Oh.
seeing behind me here, this work there, that work actually is this is the reverse side
Okay.
of it.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
that we're seeing.
Nice.
So that's really important. There's like talking again about that it's like a whole nother work on the other side. I was like very indecisive that day.
Yeah. I think I saw this one when it was in your studio, because we were talking about the line work on it, like the more like linear marks as kind of like a newer space for exploration.
Yeah, this work together was like definitely an inspiration. I mean, getting into spray painting. This is one of those works, one of those earlier works where I was interested in that another mark. I'm actually getting into the mark making and finding myself into the mark making practice and really I was really getting into painting. I think here now I'm really a lot more into the surface. I feel like this work is reading as expressionism. It's reading as abstract expressionism much more. Here instead of the monochromatic just like washes that were mostly compile this work. I think making these linear marks for me, I was always so interested in I would tear the work and that was the mark, the tear being the mark instead of the spray paint can, that being the mark or the brush that being the mark. I was always so interested just purely in that tear. But I think here it was really kind of nice because I took a break from that and I just started painting and I spent a lot more time on the canvas and just like putting the paints on the canvas during this time.
I see. And this is your show at Monaco here in
Yeah,
St. Louis,
I think I have
Missouri.
more images. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
there are. And you are a member at Monaco?
Yeah, I am.
That's good.
Yeah, working out of St. Louis, so it's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool it's the beauty in it is that the memberships are always evolving there, which is really great. We have it's always more. Yeah, the rotation of the memberships is really amazing there. Everyone's an artist, or some of us are not artists, or we're working within any parts of the creative field. Everyone's a strength within the group. So
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
think that for some reason I'm not able to navigate through these images at the moment, so I apologize for
that's
that.
cool. Yeah, that's the cover page. Yeah, and that show is called Severance, which is
Mm.
again is talking about these. The title once again is that literal and conceptual, right? It's very very little. The severance is the like once again talking about based off of a like severance check, or like being the money that you get at the end of your job. And
Mm.
I was thinking through how the current times as well. It's like that severance, right? Of like when COVID hit and
Mm.
everyone lost their job or were laid off, or thinking about that idea of that last, or that space between the periods um, of people's life and their living. So once again, I'm literally adding vocabulary to these works, and attempting to put them closer to the actual mark that I'm making on the canvas. So I'm really attempting to expand this process, expand my quite literal process of tearing canvas, but expanding the vocabulary that I use around it.
Mm. Yeah, so this is an
Yeah.
install shot here. We have some that are fully on the floor, and
Yeah.
not as distressed as lots of the other works.
Wow. I haven't
Yeah,
seen
they
that.
are. So I was for this space, I was really interested in those bringing it back to the floor, because during that when these works were created, they're typically on the floor. There's a really really interesting image of like Jackson Pollock. He's like
Mm.
on the ground, or you'll see like Jack Whitten, and he's like he's like on the ground painting these canvases. Or you see like Helen Frankenthaler, and she's like
Yeah.
on her
S-
paintings are like on the
and she's
ground.
like sitting
You know,
on the painting itself. I've seen
yeah,
a
yeah.
couple of those images where she's sitting on one of the fields and is painting another new field.
Definitely, right. So I wanted to be a part of that in a way. So I wanted to like put my ceremonially put my canvases on the ground and bring them back to where they were created. I
Mm.
felt like this was a really great space for that. I felt like these works filled the floor really well. I had made these works outside, and they were on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So they're back to the viewing is back to how they were created, but also um, yeah, being part of that lineage was quite important. Like the history around the floor painting and how it was being then displayed again when it was completed.
For sure. Oh, and I don't mean to jump back between shows, but I just think it has to be asked with the floor coming up. Dragon Crab Turtle, you said the floor itself was an installation. I wonder, A, did you have any pieces on the floor? And B, since the floor has sort of definitely entered your practice or your expression of your work, how was kind of potentially being in course with or potentially competing with a floor installation with your work on the wall.
Yeah, the work being at Dragon Crab Turtle and having this giant floor piece, it was. I felt like it was quite a lot, because in the past Catherine Bernhardt was able to just fill the space with and that's part of the installation specifically
Love
there. And
that, Valenciana.
like it's hundreds of square feet, in this space in St. Louis, which
Mm.
we see the idea of reclaiming warehouses in St. Louis, and the idea of it now bringing art to these areas in St. Louis, weren't known for that, which is bringing really great things to our city. I think, which is really amazing. The the floor work in that space, I think it's definitely something to witness because of it just being able to yeah, I think just the size and the scale of it. I felt like the scale of that floor really made me compete with what kind of work that I wanted to show in that space. Like
Yeah.
I think at first, typically what happens when I'm making my canvases is that I, they don't fit in the walls of my studio space,
Mm.
because typically if I paint outside when it's in the spring or summertime in St. Louis, which is really great, I'm able to be outside, and I bring the work inside and it always fills my studio space. Just like because when I'm outdoors, I can expand much larger. So
Mm,
So
for
did
sure.
did you just happen to be wearing the Balenciagas that day, or did Catherine ask you to make sure to kit up with the Balenciagas?
yeah, I just like happen to have those on there that time.
Let's
Yeah.
And I walk
go.
away.
That lifestyle.
That's the question everybody wants to know.
Yes. Yeah, chat's blowing up over here. Those shoes, the shoes though. Yeah. What are those? Well, and it's funny too, and I don't mean to belabor the point of the floor, but every floor has a personality of any art space, whether it's completely just concrete or if it's wood. Like I think about Slam, like when I'm walking through the contemporary space, St. Louis Art Museum. There's certain places where if you step, it makes a loud sound. There's like those metal grates that go across, and whether or not I'm interpreting is that compared. I'm kind of trained my brain to not look at the floor necessarily, whereas this having installation of the floor is something that actually I think after your first go through, you could kind of turn your brain off of that and be like, well, I know that this will be here, but what's over here, and that's not. It's always going to be in again kind of in chorus or in competition. So then I'm curious too. Then to me, I hadn't seen those Monaco images yet of the pieces on the floor. So that's like shocking to me, and I'm glad this is happening in real time, so I can do this for the show. It's good content, as me and Rick talk about. But what brought you? I mean, you definitely discussed it. It's kind of part of your practice, but I mean, it feels like there's like this element of like I'm gonna give you all a little extra something. Like yes, here's this new work, but I'm gonna give you something that like I'm. It almost not that you're unsure of it, but it feels like here's a little taste of the future in this current moment too. At the same time, like I could see you exploring the floor forever in so many different ways. I'm curious your thoughts on that part of the process.
Yeah, I think that detail is really interesting because it's happening here, and it's also the show here in San Francisco as well. What's happening is that there's a work that really long strip work that we went over as well
Mhm.
that is cresting the floor. I've always had a really interesting relationship, I think, with the floor because of its making, but also what I'm really interested in is this idea, looking forward of the installation. But also, I think the floor is really interesting because it's this thing that we don't we just breeze past. I think
Yeah,
it's this thing
absolutely.
that of course that we it's this like the ground we move on. I think in the attempts to humanize these paintings, the interaction with the floor, even though the interaction with the floor is stagnant, right? The work is just sitting here or cresting here, like barely cresting the ground, or if they are laying flat on the ground. That relationship with the floor is I think my attempt to humanize these works as well.
Mm.
Absolutely.
We do have some photos of your process too that you shared,
Cool.
that we can look at kind of inside of this context. And yeah, as you said, the making is taking place horizontally. Would you say that most of the painting takes place on the ground and most of the cutting, ripping, and tearing takes place on the wall?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, this kind of interesting seeing this photo here because this piece looks completely different
Yes,
now
it's incredible.
than this image, or this piece would have looked so different. I'm actually attempting to see when this work, because back to a question earlier about the use of the water, I would have went in with the water hose after this.
Uh-huh.
If I can, and so a lot of these lines would have been so much more muttered over when it's completed than a lot of these harsh those spray marks. And I really for a while got into using this thing called a paint striper, which is used as a industrial material. And in most of its practice is this industrial material called the paint striper, that was used to paint the lines on the ground outside. So I went. It's used to paint the ground. So I put this canvas on the ground, then use this paint striper over the canvas to get those very harsh marks that are seen there. But once again, I'm mixing the paint on the ground. All this is happening without a palette. I'm not mixing. I'm not pre-mixing any paint. It's straight out of the tube with the sponges, with the paint striper, and with the water hose. So there's this idea of I'm giving myself these colors, this yellow, this green, this teal, this orange, and these are the colors that I'm working with, and these are the tools that I'm working with,
Mm.
and now I just like kind of go for it, you
Mm.
know. So
I have to say the color striper I thought was a very small lawnmower for a second. I was like,
Mhm.
oh wow, that's how he's cutting it with that. Okay, cool.
There is some really nicely manicured grass in the background of this photo.
There is, there really is.
Looks
That's-
very
that's-
nicely manicured.
Makes sense.
Yeah, a couple
Wow.
more of those. Yeah, this is. So, would you consider these like underpaintings?
yeah, that's an underpainting. That's the first. That's like the very first side of a canvas, and that's the underpainting to
These are some deep
yeah.
cuts, Vaughn. No pun intended.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen any of this process, and
That blue would have covered this really dark. That would have covered all of that. I mean, that wouldn't have all those deep cuts there, those lines, those really heavy spray lines. That all would have been covered. I mean, that it just we won't even see this or wouldn't have even seen that if it were to be seen.
Wow,
Yeah, only at that time.
for sure.
yeah, thanks for like kind of revealing the curtain. Look at that concrete.
Yeah.
History there, right? You think
Yes.
maybe
You're
Catherine
not
will,
getting that deposit back.
yeah.
I don't know if that's a rental or not, but yeah.
That's something that I think we talked about too. Is in your studio that like that's something that you have to consider is the way that like if you're making in the studio, it impacts the floor and being able to repaint it or bring it back to a natural state. I think we can see lots of history on this concrete pad here. Is this where you've made lots of paintings on this concrete pad?
Yeah, I have. These were made outside,
Okay.
but now in my studio, indoors, yeah, the floor has gone through quite a change. Yeah, I remember the floors being pristine when I went there, and the studio that I'm renting in St. Louis, they were quite pristine there, and now it's that concrete now has absorbed many of my artworks. Much of the paint is now stuck to those floors. So one day that'll be a work in and of itself. Or before I leave, I'm just gonna I'll have to paint over it or somehow.
Excavate it. Just
Yeah.
get a
Yeah, to take it with
concrete
you.
saw. Yeah.
You got to take it with you.
Let's just.
Rick, I know we're kind of coming up on our questions. Should we jump to the Julius Caesar thing real quick? I don't mean to
Yeah.
hurry this part up. I'm really enjoying this.
I was just gonna flip through
No,
these.
please. Oh my God, incredible.
Studio shot. That was when the studio was at its most maximal. This is when this was like the moments before I sent the work here. Actually, in this shot here, you can see a work that is here at Romer Young Gallery right now. So this work that's behind me is actually one of the works in the show. Yeah, but also this work was at one of the works in the shot also was at the Monaco Gallery. Another work that I can see here is actually at Romer Young Gallery out here in San Francisco, which is quite cool. This image is pretty important because this is like right before the outtake of the work, right before I sent the work everywhere. This is how I was just seeing the work. This is how I was just in my studio on the daily.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see them in such proximity to one another, just so close, like so tight.
It's incredible.
And yeah, let's just wrap up this part of the conversation with the other things that are going on. Jake, you mentioned Julius Caesar. Vaughn, you have a piece at Julius Caesar in Chicago right now. That's correct.
Yeah, we do.
And that's a collaboration between Monaco and Julius Caesar.
Awesome. Yeah, we're here. Nice one.
Yeah. So we see this one here. This was also in your show at Monaco. Is that correct? This was kind of by the desk, the reception desk at Monaco.
Oh, very close. Actually, it's not the same work.
Wow.
It's another very early monochromatic work. That's yellow. It's only also painted on one side. There. So this piece is called So What. It's actually a very early work in my practice. One of the works that actually kind of began the practice. This is work that I have that's like part of like my me personally at the moment. Because to me, it is part of the inception of this practice. Because it is painted with yellow ochre. which is just this pigment that comes out of the ground. It's a natural pigment that was used typically for clay bodies, to when you make a clay or when you make a glaze. Those are the times that you would see this pigment typically used here. So this piece, which at some point I was even now I'm very much inspired by I was very much inspired by jazz music and this idea of what it was, and connecting freestyle jazz music and connecting music to abstraction, and literally within the process of these works. So very early on, I used a song by Miles Davis, which is like the very famous jazz musician Miles Davis. I titled it after that song.
Okay. Mm.
Yeah, so this is very much different than the work we even seen than the work that we've seen so far, because this one is actually very early
Yeah.
in my practice. I really had no kind of barometer, or I had no kind of compass as to where the work was going when I made this work. This work is like very intuitive. It's very early. There's like not even really that much painting that's happening here. It's just the ochre on the canvas.
Yeah. Very
I
cool.
mean, it's like jazz. I mean, it's intuition. You know, it's coming from a cardinal space almost. Just like, I need to do this now because I feel the energy. It's very energetic for sure.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's coming up for you, the other show, is that at Abattoir?
That's coming up very soon.
Okay. What's up with that? I don't see any documentation yet on their website, but you did mention that you have a group exhibition coming up with Abattoir. Is that how you say it?
Definitely. Yep, exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
we have a group exhibition coming up there, and also the show here in San Francisco at Romer Young. We're extending that
Oh, yeah.
for another couple of weeks as well, which that's very exciting. And the show at Julius Caesar is also being extended as well now. So look out for programming and other things like that coming up soon with those exhibitions.
Yeah, so that's, if you're in Cleveland, if you're in San Francisco, if you're in Chicago, definitely have an opportunity to see Vaughn's work. Okay, great. Well, I feel like we could talk about that. We could talk about your work probably for like another 3 hours if we needed to. But thank you so much for sharing these takes and being in conversation with us, and giving us the behind the scenes too. I think that's something that isn't always present, and what artists are wanting to share about their process and in their work. And I felt like those process photos that you sent over were really revealing and kind of vulnerable. So really appreciate you sending those over.
Cool.
We're going to hop into our final segment here with our final 10 questions. We say we ask all of our artists these questions, but they kind of change every week depending on how we're feeling. Just a way for us to kind of bring us out of the depth and the passion of the art conversation, so we don't drop off our viewers, in a place of sometimes like existential dread or feeling too emotive, and then we just say bye-bye, thanks for coming.
Okay,
So it's just an opportunity for us to have fun and get to know Vaughn in a little bit of a different way here at the end. So for instance, the first question out of the 10 is, what is one simple thing, Vaughn, that you're trying to get good at right now?
Oh, I'm trying to get good at longboarding, actually.
Oh, word. Okay.
Yeah, I've been trying to. Yeah, that's been my thing. I've been trying to get into it a bit more. I need to, when I'm back in St. Louis, I bought my board out here, which is pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
I'm trying to get better at that. Then when I'm back in St. Louis, I want to hit some skate spots. I'm always looking for people to skate with. So if people are skating in St. Louis, like, hit me up. I want to learn how. I want to learn how to do some tricks for sure. Yeah, I would love. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get good at now. So
Shredding.
Shredding
totally.
an R.
Vaughn's a simple man. He just wants to shred.
Yes. Across the board.
Oh. 1, 2. That was the rake Jick special right there.
Did you? But
Go ahead, Jake.
all right, Vaughn, what is your favorite type of gum?
Oh, spearmint's pretty good.
Spearmint.
Spearmint is really chill. Yeah, I haven't tried. I don't eat too much gum. I like mints. I can get with those pretty well.
Yeah, kind of a means to an end, just like fresh in the mouth, move on. Not like
Yep.
a gum purveyor necessarily. Not into the
Yeah, because
gum.
with art handling, it's kind of if I'm like I don't want to like you don't want to swallow your gum when you're handling someone's art.
Right.
This is awkward. Yeah.
I could see that being very awkward for sure.
We have an offer here in the chat. If you want to learn how to ice skate, we have somebody offering to help you learn ice skating as well, Vaughn.
Indoor?
So, yeah.
Is it indoor? Awesome.
There's actually a really nice outdoor ice skating rink, probably not in use now that it's summer. But there's a new ice skating facility in Creve Coeur called the Centene Ice Arena, which is super, super nice. I went outdoor ice skating there in March, and it was super, super nice. So yeah, I'll connect you with them later. Vaughn, have you ever successfully completed a game of Monopoly?
Oh, it's been years. It would have been years. The last time I played Monopoly was always always at the family functions.
Yeah.
It was always like with all my cousins, like way back when. So it's been some years since I've actually played Monopoly. The last games that I played was like Nintendo Switch. I got a Switch finally.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was super stoked on that. Yeah, I got it as a gift pretty recently. So I've been working through Smash Brothers, and it's pretty cool. Nice.
We might have to get you on
Yeah,
an artist
it's
play
been a good
video
time.
games one of these days.
Yes, that would be fun.
We're branching out the shows. I think we're going to be doing some Fortnite with some new artists coming up here pretty soon.
Nice.
Was the Monopoly with the fam pretty cutthroat at the function?
Always, yeah. I think that's maybe why like I haven't successfully finished one because I think I was with my family and somebody always quits. Someone always gets upset.
Gets mad.
Yeah. Then the game is 3.5 hours long.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Then it's dinner time.
Right. Oh my gosh. Vaughn, other than being an artist, what dream job would you have with no limits?
Dream job with no limits. Oh, I think being able to travel would be cool. Like, I would really dig other dream job than being an artist. Like, I feel like it's such a privilege to be an artist, and this is like already it's a dream, and just to say like, oh wow, pick another job.
Yeah. The impossible question.
It is. That's like I think that's an impossible question for me because I feel like it feels so good to be here.
Yeah.
You would be a good like travel food blogger.
Ooh, I'd read that. I'd be into that.
Beermosas around the world.
Yes. Oh my
With
god.
Vaughn
the
Davis
Beermosa
Jr.
blog. Yes. Oh, that's something right there for sure.
What was your favorite cartoon growing up?
Oh, favorite cartoon. I felt like I watched a ton. Let's see. I feel like I watched a ton of what's the Beyblades. And I watched some Yu-Gi-Oh when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of the teens and the it's like number one and there's like
Codename Kid Next Door.
Codename Kids Next Door.
Yes.
Watched a ton of that. Was like always on.
So you're a dueler.
Yeah, I think I was.
Those are conflict-oriented ass shows.
Yeah, those are good cartoons. I mean, but like I feel like some Looney Tunes always came on. That was like always there.
Yeah,
as a kid
it's
as
classic.
Well. Yeah, very much.
Codename
so.
Kids Next Door, I think, was the heat for sure. That was a really good show.
It was great. No, and it was always on too, like you said,
true.
like Vaughn. Like it's
It's
just
like Saturday mornings.
they pushed it, But I mean, it was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, I can get down with that. The Beyblades were like way cooler in the show than they are in reality. Like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think I remember them being a show. I know the toy, but I don't think I knew the.
Yeah, it was.
I guess it was a show. It makes sense.
Yeah. I think it was a show, right? Because like I remember I always had one. I remember like, always getting one. Like but also I remember them like never working.
No.
Because the ground wasn't smooth enough.
No, they were trash. Yeah.
It's like almost more exciting to open the toy than to actually play with the toy.
They were cool. They had like different layers, and you could like take out certain layers and replace them with other layers. Because you had the like the top layer, the bottom top layer, I don't know, the top part of the Beyblade, which is on the bottom. It's the part that it
Right.
spins on. Jeez, why is it so difficult? You could like switch that out, and then you'd have like an attack ring. You could get like
Yeah.
different like color attack rings. But then and then I had like a arena, which was just basically like a big blue plastic bowl, and then you'd like fight with them. But I don't think it was ever as cool as I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, recently my granddad, he's gotten into drones
Oh,
a lot
nice.
more. So occasionally he'll invite me over to play with his drones. We'll be outside and we're like flying his drones around the park, or we're there outside. This is like really awesome time to connect with him, which has
Nice.
been really cool with me, for me, like in his life and like in his life as well. Like in my life and in his life, to be, he's getting older now, so like for him to have toys again, because he was a mechanic growing up,
Okay.
and yeah, we spent so much time. I spent so much time with him, like under the hood of a car, and now it's him, and he's older now, and he's playing with drones, and he likes to see this thing just like fly,
Totally.
which is really amazing. So, yeah,
Graduated from the Beyblades to the to the
drones.
drones.
Drones are a lot better than Beyblades.
For sure.
This is one of our new questions, yeah?
Yeah, new. I'm curious how this will go. Vaughn, what do you think most people get wrong about artists?
Yeah, I think the struggling artist thing, I think is really kind of wild. I think all artists do struggle, but to speak about the struggling artist I think they can be just like seems like a slippery slope for us, so to always struggle, as an artist, and to always need to struggle to get to the art, or to struggle to make it. I think that can be really difficult. I think because then it's like we're always. I think the artist's relationship with pain, in order to struggle to make the art, or to struggle to succeed, that it doesn't have to be that hard. I think that the relationship with pain can get really. I think that it can just be not good. I think after a while. Yeah, if we say that, so I think that's something that we get wrong. It's to believe that all artists have to struggle, and that's the struggling artist. We have to put that on the artist in order for them to succeed.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that. I completely agree. The Yeah, I don't know. Part of me like really wants to talk about that because it's something that's super important. Because the this idea. So like there is this idea of like the starving artist, right? And then there's this idea of like the struggling artist. And I think that it's almost kind of this like next iteration. Like my grandparents would say like, well, you don't want to be an artist because you'll be a starving artist. And then like my parents are like, well, you don't want to be an artist because it's going to be such a struggle to make a life and to make a living. Like there's this generational divide that kind of occurs there that we're trying to understand and make sense of here, in this position, because like this idea that good work comes from pain or good work comes from struggle, I think like has its merits because we all go through those things, but does it need to be the focal point of the experience of being an artist? And it sounds like you're saying it doesn't.
Yeah, I think I'm saying it doesn't. Yeah, I'm thinking it says. I think I'm attempting to say that it doesn't have to be such an interconnected part of the artist practice. Yeah, I don't think that it's necessary. I think that there's like really big difficulties. I think with understanding an artist or somebody who is creative, and that the general lack of understanding that someone could have based upon how we define, or how an artist is defined. Yeah, I think the starving artist quote. I think back to the consumability. I think saying a starving artist. There are so many starving people. I mean, and to be a starving artist, it's I just see that as this way to understand artists.
Mm. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. This next question has a quite a bit different tone. So moving kind of in the other direction. When you're driving, are you typically the one giving or receiving the finger?
What does that mean?
Like flipping someone off, you know what I mean?
Oh, I never do that. I
So,
try to be a nice driver.
yeah.
Yeah, I do. I'm like really patient. It's like I'm trying, and I'm like even trying to get better with that because I feel like
So what you're saying is you're the one receiving the finger.
I am. I think yeah. I think I would be in that instance.
Yeah.
That's good. It's probably a better place to be.
Hmm.
It's probably
Yeah, especially like yeah. I think yeah. I'm just trying to. Everybody just has to slow down. I think on the roads, just St. Louis. I think people just have to slow down. Everyone just has to slow down and just take it a bit more easy.
yeah.
Yeah.
In the chat, Skate Mom says, "I knew it. He seems so sweet."
We just knew it. Vaughn, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on Crocs?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I think they could be. I mean, I think can be really good for the studio.
Mm.
I was gonna say,
like
I feel like ultimate studio shoe, sort of.
definitely like maximum comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they could be.
I think I
It's like
see a Vaughn X Croc collab in the future where it's like it's just all white or all black on top, but then the sole is just covered in paint, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
crazy.
It
maybe.
has to be, yeah.
So hit us up, Crocs. We'd be happy to.
Let us know.
I love
in
that
the
you went
chat.
directly to it's a good studio shoe. They're all terrain. Our final two questions here kind of return to that calm connectedness that we like to carry out throughout the show, but we also like to end the show on. Vaughn, could you describe your meditation practice or a similar way of relaxing or connecting to the world?
Yeah, I've been walking a lot, which has been really great for me. I think I've just been moving around. What I do typically before I get to my studio, if I'm about to get to my studio, whether it's after work or just on another day, I'll walk around my studio or walk in the hallway adjacent to my studio, or before I leave the house, I kind of like pace in my house. I think I found that I'm a kinetic thinker. I think I have to, in order for me to think, I need to do things. Typically, is how my brain functions. So walking has been like really, really great, or just like movements in that way. Like I said, I've been skateboarding a bit, like longboarding, like wanting to get good at that. The movement or the action, that orientation is like really good for my mind. I found. So movement is some form of meditation for me. Typically, it helps me connect to people.
Gotcha. Jake, you want to take us away on our final question?
Let's do it. So our last question is, what is the most memorable response you have received about your work?
Yeah, I think pretty good. Like I would say that it's like to keep making, like just to keep making the work is something that has been a really great response I've gotten from the work. The idea just to not kind of not stop, or just like to cut down that filter that we have, like to break down that barrier between what I feel creatively in my head versus like what I'm going to make. I think getting closer to those things, finding that balance for the work has been like that's been the best advice I think I could say, is being able to just make the work. Yeah, just make it. I mean, just make it first, then kind of think about all the implications of it. Think about all these concepts after the work is now here in the world. Because I mean, it's like just art, and it's just, but it's also like just so much as well.
Just kind of that keep going. That I love. That's like I've definitely heard that, and I think a lot of people have heard that, but I think there's so much power in that. Someone telling you just like to keep moving forward.
Yeah, just keep making.
Well,
Very
that's our 10 questions, and that's our show.
important.
So, Vaughn, just I mean, thank you so much for being here. We're really excited to host you as the first guest on Art Brunch through funding from the Luminaries Regranting Initiative. We want to give them a shout out. I want to thank Romer Young Gallery for opening up their space and facilitating this. They helped a lot in facilitating this talk, and from a personal place, thanking them for showing your work there and like being in conversation with you and adding to the conversation that your work is having nationally, which
Yeah,
is really really important. But I had a really I had a really great time today from the beer mosa to looking at the faces or the tweets, deciding if we're Rothko or bacon stands.
yeah, totally.
7 degrees from a bacon stand. Uh,
Getting closer.
and then going through your work and having like a really sober look through that and the process stuff that you shared with us, which I think is world's first exclusive. So we feel honored to that.
Great.
Vaughn, I want to give you space here to talk about anything that you have coming up or anything you want to shout out here as we get to the end of the show.
Cool. Yeah, guys, thanks for having me on. This has been amazing. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here at the gallery as well and be here in this moment in time. This is really great. Yeah, and I think as far as I have shows coming up soon, you can always check me out just through my Instagram account. I'm always making work in St. Louis. I'm attempting to get the practice more open and really letting people see the parts of the practice. So everyone just kind of be on the lookout for that as far as my work is concerned. I'm kind of always making something. I'm around St. Louis a lot right now, so that's really great as well. So I have some shows coming up. I'll keep everyone posted basically through there. I mean, I think it's always a work in progress. I think it's part of the lifestyle. So yeah.
Awesome. All right. Great. Jake, I don't mean to cut you out. You have anything
no.
anything coming up? You have any new episodes? You just recently dropped an episode of Dynamics, and
yeah.
and we're gonna see you again on some upcoming shows here for the travel agency.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I want to thank you again, Vaughn. This has been kind of since the inception of me joining the show with Rick. Again, your piece has been right behind him the whole time. I'm just like, someday we're gonna get him on the show. So it feels very full circle, even though this feels like kind of a new beginning for us here at the show. And I'm just so excited for this space that you're in too, of just this kind of moment of across America, you can find a Vaughn somewhere. So I just congratulations to you, man. I'm really so excited for you, and thank you for being here. And Rick, thanks for having me here, man. I'm excited to be in this room. I tell you what, this is
He lived up to
best city in the world.
expectations, right? Always.
Yeah, I want
Far
to show some
surpassed.
love and throw some love out in public.
Never had any
so
doubt.
Thank you guys for all this for sure. So
Awesome.
Rick, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, and I think as far as the travel agency goes, next week we've got a little bit of a lighter load. I've got a show tomorrow. Maybe I'll be doing something outside. I might go down to Twain, take a walk, take a hike, bro. I might just go take a hike and go walk through Twain, go down to the Arch and do some IRL stuff. And then other than that, we've got Art Brunch next Sunday with Vincent Stimler, which we're excited to be hosting them on the show. Really look forward to that. So I think that's going to do it. Lots of love to both of you. And thanks to everyone in our Twitch community here. Thanks for all of the wonderful comments and support today. I dropped Vaughn's links in the chat, and the travel agency's links in the chat. This talk will be archived in segments on our YouTube page, so you can go over there and subscribe in case you missed any of the segments. And I think we're just gonna see y'all next week.
Sweet, guys. See you around. Thanks a lot for having me on.
You're welcome. All right. Bye, everyone.